Chapter 546. Why don't you take a rest at the side and let me try? Qin Hao stepped forward and smiled at Huangpu Daqi, who was panting like a dog. Who is this little brother? Duantian Cliff's gaze fell on Qin Hao. If Qin Hao had not spoken, he would not have noticed the presence of another person. Uncle Tianya, you don't need to know who he is. He is just a crazy admirer I met by the roadside. He wants to be my medicine boy. He even knelt on the ground and begged me to bring him here so that he can see my magical hands. Huangpu Daqi gritted his teeth and stood up. He deliberately blocked Qin Hao with his body. He had used more than a dozen Tier 4 sacred herbs and a king herb, but still could not awaken Duan Ruing. He was not willing to give Qin Hao any chance to help. Moreover, Huangpu Daqi did not believe that Qin Hao's ability was better than his. So he is just a medicine boy. Duantian Cliff said disappointedly. The yang grass in the yin-yang basin had been burned out, but Duan Ruing did not show any signs of improvement. This made him anxious. You are just a medicine boy. What right do you have to interrupt? Young Master Daqi, please continue the treatment. The elders were anxious, and some even scolded Qin Hao. Young Master Daqi must have accidentally fallen. In fact, he can definitely awaken Miss Ruing. The yellow-haired lackey also spoke up for Huangpu Daqi. Of course, after a few seconds of rest, Huangpu Daqi regained his confidence. In fact, in order to make Duantian Cliff a vassal of the Huangpu family, he came prepared today. As he spoke, he took out a small red box and slowly opened it. Suddenly, a strong medicinal aroma filled the room. A golden light suddenly flashed, looking very extraordinary. Younger sister Ru Ying's cold illness is too serious, far beyond my imagination. This is the Golden Light 100 Replenishing Flame Soul Pill. My grandfather spent 2 years to personally refine it. As long as you take it, younger sister Ru Ying will immediately return to normal. I can guarantee this. Huangpu Daqi reluctantly took the pill and reluctantly fed it to Duan Ruing. In fact, this pill was specially refined by his grandfather for the Heavens in Cliff to treat Duan Ruying's illness. It was all for the sake of waiting for the day when the Heavens in Cliff would come begging them for help. Huangpu Daqi thought that with his alchemy skills, curing Duan Ruing would be a piece of cake, but he never thought that the yin-yang basin would not work and would even waste so many precious herbs. The amount and preciousness of the herbs used to make this Golden Light 100 Replenishing Infernal Soul Pill was twice as much as what Huangpu Daqi had thrown into the yin-yang basin. Now he had no choice but to use it. Master, the old demon was a little uneasy. Don't worry, this pill still won't have any effect. Qin Hao thought that Huangpu Daqi was hiding some powerful trump card, but it turned out to be a Golden Light Infernal Soul Pill. Just by smelling the medicinal fragrance, Qin Hao was able to distinguish the ingredients used, the amount, and the refining process. Moreover, it was certain that it was unable to awaken Duan Ruing. Duan Ruying's cold illness was indeed very rare. Huangpu Daqi showed off his pills in front of Qin Hao. He was too inexperienced. Someone, give me a bowl of water. Huangpu Daqi shouted and was ready to feed the pill to Duan Ruing. In his heart, he hated this poor girl to the core. She had wasted so many of his treasures. I advise you to let Miss Ruing consume it directly. Water will turn into ice when it meets the cold. The medicinal efficacy of the pill in your hand will not be able to withstand the cold in Miss Ruying's body. On the contrary, it will harm her and worsen her condition. Qin Hao kindly reminded him. This surprised Huangpu, as well as everyone else. Bullshit. Then, Huangpu Daqi was furious. Duan Ruying's body was currently stiff. If she swallowed the pill directly, it would not enter her stomach. She could only drink it. Moreover, this pill was made by Huangpu Daqi's grandfather. It took him 2 years to make, and all the herbs were of a yang attribute. Once it melted, it would be incomparably hot and could definitely open up all the meridians in Duan Ruying's body. Qin Hao actually dared to boast shamelessly and belittle the medicinal efficacy of the Golden Light pill. You, get out of here right now. At this time, the Grand Elder of the Broken Wave faction pointed at Qin Hao's nose and said furiously, How dare Qin Hao point fingers at young Master Daki and disturb his mood? Faction leader Tianya, please reconsider. Qin Hao cupped his fists and looked at Duan Tianya with sincerity. Duan Tianya squinted his eyes and pondered for a moment. In the end, he waved his hand and said, "Someone, bring me a bowl of water." Huangpu Daki's grandfather, Huangpu Huichun, was the #1 alchemist in the wasteland. He was even better than the palace leaders of hundreds of elixir halls. He chose to believe in the golden light pill made by Huangpu Huichun. "Kid, open your eyes wide and look carefully." Huangpu Daki took the bowl of water and threw the golden light pill into it. Sizzle! A cloud of white smoke rose from the bowl. After the pill melted, the water immediately turned into an orange-yellow liquid. In the midst of the steam, there were small bubbles rising from the bottom of the bowl. Huangpu Daki was right. The medicinal effect of this bowl of golden light medicinal liquid was extremely strong. He immediately picked up the bowl and reluctantly brought the medicinal liquid to Duan Ruying's pale lips and carefully drank it. Sigh. Qin Hao sighed helplessly. Looking at the pale young girl on the bed, he felt sorry for Duan Tianya. This medicinal liquid would definitely harm Duan Ruying. It would make the treatment even more difficult. However, no one here believed Qin Hao's words. Crack! 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 Suddenly, something unexpected happened. Just as Qin Hao said, after the seemingly hot golden light medicinal liquid entered her mouth, the cold aura on Duan Ruying's body did not weaken. On the contrary, it became even more serious. A layer of ice quickly spread across her body, and in the blink of an eye, she was completely frozen. Bang! Huangpu Daki quickly dodged, and the bowl fell to the ground and broke into pieces. How could this be? Impossible. This doesn't make sense. Huangpu Daki's face was filled with shock. Ruying, my child. Seeing this, Duan Tianya desperately rushed forward. Strong red yuan qi surged in his palm, trying to stop the ice from spreading. Stop! If Qin Hao did not stop him, the consequences would be unimaginable. He jumped forward and grabbed Duan Tianya's arm, throwing him to the side. You? How dare you harm my Ruying? Tears rolled down Duan Tianya's face. He raised the yuan qi in his palm high above his head and gritted his teeth. He could not wait to hit Huangpu Daki's head. Uncle Tianya, I didn't do it on purpose. Impossible, impossible. Before I came here, Grandpa told me personally that I could save your daughter. Huangpu Daki was about to kneel down. His legs were trembling, and he felt the urge to pee in his pants. If he killed Duan Ruying with a bowl of medicinal liquid, there was no doubt that Duan Tianya would tear him into pieces. He might even kill his way to the Huangpu family's base in Huangpu province. Little brother, blame me for being blind. I beg you, please save my daughter's life. It was at this point that Heaven's Cliff came to his senses. He was no longer in the mood to consider whether or not Qin Hao was an apprentice alchemist or something else. Immediately, he looked over at Qin Hao and dropped to his knees. Chapter 547. Absolutely not. Qin Hao hurriedly helped Duan Tianya up. He understood that Duan Tianya was a proud and unyielding man. If it were not for his deep love for his daughter, he would not have cast aside his dignity and his status as the sect leader to kneel before a junior like him. Taking a deep breath, Qin Hao said bluntly, I will not beat around the bush. Actually, I came here specifically to save Miss Ruying. However, I was rejected and blocked outside the door. There was even an egomaniac who threatened to use the aphrodisiac technique to show me the difference between him and me. Not only that, someone even threw a piece of mysterious crystal at me and told me to scram. As he spoke, Qin Hao looked at the Grand Elder and the yellow-haired man. How dare you? Duan Tianya roared. His voice was like thunder that rumbled in everyone's ears. Instantly, he realized that Qin Hao was not Huangpu Daki's medicine boy, but a doctor who was here to treat his daughter's illness. However, this doctor who was skilled in medicine was maliciously blocked by his subordinates. Huangpu Daki even took advantage of his noble background to despise and humiliate Qin Hao. Old man is foolish. It's my fault, my fault. Please save our Ruing. I beg you. The Grand Elder was filled with regret as he knelt down with tears in his eyes. That bowl of medicine had given him a deep understanding of Qin Hao's power. This person's medical skills were unfathomable. At this moment, the yellow-haired man was so scared that he quickly shrank into the crowd, not daring to show his face. Grand Elder, please get up. I don't mean to blame you. However, Miss Ru Ying's condition has worsened. I'm not 100% confident that I can save her. I can only try my best. Although Qin Hao said that he would try his best, he was actually very confident. To the Red Lotus Fire, the ice condensed from a bowl of medicine was not even worth a fart. You? How dare you say that you can save Miss Ruing? Huang Pudaki was immediately displeased when he heard Qin Hao say that he would try his best. Initially, he was bored and wanted to show off his skills in front of Qin Hao. Who would have thought that he would lose face twice in a row? Now, even he, Huang Pudaki, had no way to save Duan Ruing. Even the golden light pill that his grandfather had spent 2 years to develop still didn't have the slightest effect. What right did Qin Hao have? That's right. I think he's just guessing. Everyone knows that water turns into ice when it's cold. Actually, I wanted to say the same thing just now. The yellow-haired, middle-aged man hid in the crowd and muttered softly. He was afraid that if Qin Hao managed to save Duan Ruing, at that time, the one who would suffer would be him. So, I think that Sister Ruing is basically hopeless. Even if a god comes, he can't do anything about it. Forgive me for being blunt, but this guy is deliberately mystifying. In fact, he is here to cheat money. In the end, he didn't save her and even took a lot of benefits from you. Uncle Tianya, why don't you prepare for Sister Ru Ying's funeral as soon as possible? Don't let this person deceive you, and you'll end up with nothing. Huang Pudaki smiled coldly at Qin Hao. Duan Tian, you clenched his fists tightly. If it wasn't for his fear of the Huangpu clan, he would have torn Huang Pudachi into pieces. It was because of that bowl of water that his daughter was in this state. Since you said so, I really have to give it a try. How about we make a bet? Qin Hao looked at Huang Pudachi and said, A bet? What are you betting with me? I'll bet with my life. If I can't save Miss Ruing, not only will I not take a single cent, I'll also let you do whatever you want with me. And if you lose, I want you to apologize to me. Qin Hao pointed at Huang Pudachi. His request was not excessive at all. He just wanted an apology. Ha ha, arrogant. Fine, I'll bet with you. If you can save Sister Ruing, who can't even save my grandpa's pill, I'll King kneel in front of you and apologize. Qin Hao could save Duan Ruing? Huang Pudachi did not believe it at all. Do you mean what you say? Qin Hao lamented that Huang Pudachi was courting death. I swear on the honor of the Huangpu clan, if you save her, I, Huang Pudachi, will kneel in front of everyone and apologize to you. Huang Pudachi said coldly. Fine, with the Tinya faction leader and elders as witnesses, I'll see what kind of honor the Huangpu clan has. Qin Hao walked to the side of the bed and scanned Duan Ruiying's body. He wanted to determine the strength of her cold aura so that he could control the Red Lotus Fire to save her. Brother dog, are you ready? Qin Hao sent a telepathic message to the dog. When he subdued the Red Lotus Fire, the great void cauldron left a trace of fire elemental energy in his body had been used up. Now, Qin Hao's strength was not enough to control the Red Lotus Fire. However, the dog spirit was different. It had been in the infinite space ring for a long time and had gotten used to the Red Lotus Fire's aura. It had even undergone a second mutation and was fully capable of activating the Red Lotus Fire. If Qin Hao wanted to save her, he would need the help of the dog spirit. Roar! The dog spirit responded with a firm roar. Immediately, Qin Hao was relieved. Hey kid, do it. Don't waste time. The yellow-haired middle-aged man stuck his head in between the first elder's legs and urged Qin Hao with a despicable look. He could not wait to see Qin Hao make a fool of himself. Haha, show me what you've got. I can't wait to apologize to you. To be precise, I can't wait to. Huang Pudaki's eyes flashed fiercely as he made a throat-slitting gesture at Qin Hao. At this moment, everyone present held their breath and focused their attention on Qin Hao. They were anxious. After all, if even Qin Hao failed, Duan Ruiying would be powerless. Phew. Qin Hao heaved a sigh of relief. He placed his palms flat and slowly lowered them. They stopped 3 inches away from Duan Ruiying's body. At this moment, in the infinite space ring, the dog spirit stood up with its 8-meter-tall body and tiger-like head slightly tilted back. Floating in front of it was a ball of crimson flame that was as red as blood. The flame was emitting a scorching heat that could destroy the heavens and earth. Hiss! As the dog spirit inhaled the flame, its belly began to expand rapidly like an inflating balloon. Its belly became rounder and rounder, looking extremely funny. Suddenly, it stretched its head forward and blew a mouthful of flame into the floating red lotus flame. Suddenly, the heat in the infinite space ring surged, accompanied by the cries of the old demon. Under the precise control of the dog spirit, the heat was slowly transmitted from the infinite space ring to the outside world. It's coming. Qin Hao sensed it. With a shout, he operated his alchemy technique and covered his palms with flame. An orange light appeared in his palms, and the light gradually turned red. Another profound sage? At this moment, the elders in the room were shocked. When did a profound sage of the younger generation become so cheap? Moreover, Qin Hao was even younger than Huangpu Daqi. However, due to the fire chi of the Red Lotus, Qin Hao's body was emitting a mysterious force at this moment. No one at the scene, including those at the Duantian Cliff, could see through Qin Hao's cultivation base. Even so, Huangpu Daqi's face became more and more distorted. He never expected that Qin Hao was also a profound sage. Creak! Huangpu Daqi clenched his fists. Damn it! He thought that he was a genius, but a random kid on the street turned out to be a profound sage. This made Huangpu Daqi very dissatisfied. At the same time, on the other side, under Qin Hao's control, the Red Lotus fire merged with his own Yuan fire, turning into a brand new flame that could not cause any harm to ordinary people. Gradually, the ice crystals that covered Duan Ruiying's body slowly melted, faded, and disappeared. The meridians in his body that were blocked by the icy chi were instantly filled with warmth. His stiff body became soft, and his pale face regained its vitality. His face was bright red and looked very good. Chapter 548. It's done. Just as Duan Ruiying's condition was getting better, and everyone was overjoyed, Qin Hao unexpectedly stopped and dispersed the fire in his palm. His action stunned everyone. Duan Ruiying was unfrozen, but she did not wake up. How could it be considered a good thing? Mister, you must have misunderstood. I want you to completely cure my daughter's illness, and not just unfreeze her. Duan Tianya said, I have cured Miss Ruiying. Qin Hao turned around and looked at Duan Tianya in confusion. Are you kidding me? Duan Tianya smiled awkwardly. How could he cure her in a few breaths? Moreover, Qin Hao's medical skills were too simple, to the point that it was too simple. He should at least be like Huangpu Daqi, taking out a few shining treasures and sweating profusely. At the very least, he should have pretended to prick Duan Ruiying with needles like those old Chinese doctors. That would have given Duan Tianya some confidence. Even if he could not cure her in the end, he would have a way out. But now, Qin Hao used his fire to soothe Duan Ruiying and said arrogantly, I have cured her. Who would believe that? Ha ha! Kid, are you here to show off your skills? You call this curing her? In fact, Huangpu Daqi was laughing hysterically. He pointed at Qin Hao and said, I have to say, your trickery is extremely crude, but you can unexpectedly dissolve the ice chi on Sister Ruiying's body. You do have some skills. To be honest, Huangpu Daqi did not have the ability to cure Duan Ruiying's illness, and neither did his grandfather's golden light pill. Qin Hao is already better than him. However, Huangpu Daqi did not believe that he could cure Duan Ruiying. Next, shouldn't you ask Uncle Tianya for your reward? Once you take your reward and leave, Sister Ruiying's illness will relapse. I have seen many people like you. Huangpu Daqi said, and many people nodded. Duan Tianya also felt that it made sense. Kid, stop acting. You can't save Sister Ruiying. No one in this world can cure her. I'm sure that even if pill venerables and pill sovereigns were here, they could only shake their heads and sigh. As for you, you should immediately fulfill your promise. Kneel before me and atone for your sins. Also, immediately cripple your own cultivation and scram. Leave the wasteland. Huang Pu Daki arrogantly pointed at Qin Hao and ordered. Even the venerated pill and the pill sovereign are here, but all they can do is shake their heads and sigh. Perhaps you're right, but unfortunately, I'm not a pill venerable or pill emperor. Qin Hao said calmly. Among all the alchemists on the continent, I am the only one whose cultivation has reached the emperor rank. Dindy, why are you talking so much nonsense? Kneel down right now. Huang Pu Daki immediately made his move. With a roar, he raised his palm and slapped toward Qin Hao, intending to kill him to vent his anger. Father, elders, and grandpas. Why are there so many people? While they were stunned, when Huang Pu Daki made his move, a voice sounded. The voice was weak and filled with confusion. Everyone subconsciously looked at the source of the voice and were shocked to find that the sleeping Duan Ruiying had suddenly woken up. She was slightly propping herself up and looking at them curiously. In fact, Duan Ruiying's cold illness had acted up in her sleep. She had slept for half a month. To her, it was like a dream. When she woke up, she found that the room was crowded with people. Of course, she felt strange. Daughter, Duan Tianya was pleasantly surprised. With disbelief, he rushed to the bedside and held Duan Ruiying in his arms. He could not help but shed tears. She's really awake? Unbelievable. This is unbelievable. Divine doctor. He's a divine doctor. Compared to the shock brought by Duan Ruiying's awakening, everyone felt that Qin Hao was incomparably miraculous. Immediately, Qin Hao became the center of attention. Huang Pu Daki's face twisted in an instant, as if he had eaten a fly. Silently, he retreated and wanted to take advantage of the chaos to slip away. Sir Daki, you left in such a hurry. Where are you going? Qin Hao sneered. I still have something to do in my family. Since Sister Ruiying has woken up, I should report to my grandfather. Huang Pu Daki found an excuse. You can leave, but you seem to have forgotten something. Qin Hao said with a sullen face. Kid, don't push your luck. Huang Pu Daki suppressed the anger in his heart. He was the #1 genius of the Huang Pu family. How could he apologize to a kid who came out from the streets? That was impossible. I just want an apology. This is the least bit of respect. How could it be that you're pushing your luck? Is this what you call the character of the Huang Pu family? Qin Hao said with disdain. Huang Pu Daki was in the wrong, and his face turned red with anger. Young Master Daki, don't you think it's strange? This kid didn't use any herbs. He just touched her a few times, and the eldest miss woke up. On the other hand, you used a dozen saint herbs and a king herb. You even used Huang Pu Huichuan's golden light pill. At this time, the yellow-haired middle-aged man interrupted with a cheap look. Oh, I understand. It must be because of my treatment and my grandfather's golden light pill that Sister Ruiying got better. The effect of the golden light pill was too slow, so this kid took advantage of it. In fact, even if he didn't do anything, the ice in Sister Ruiying's body would have dissolved automatically. It's all because of my grandfather's golden light pill. Huang Pu Daki suddenly realized that he was taken advantage of by Qin Hao. At this moment, he immediately regained his arrogant face. He turned around and rudely pushed Qin Hao away. He walked to the bedside and looked at Duan Ruiying passionately. Sister Ruiying, how do you feel now? Do you still remember me? I'm your big brother Daki. I came to Qin province a few years ago. I used all my strength to save you. Although I'll be frostbitten by your cold, I'm not afraid. This Huang Pu Daki also began to snatch the credit. At this moment, as Duan Ruiying woke up, her blood and qi flowed through her body. She looked like a graceful girl who just walked out of the sauna. Her face was red and cute, like a small apple. The more Huang Pu Daki looked at her, the more he felt that Duan Ruiying was very beautiful. She was the kind of woman who was easy to look at and had a special temperament. Why was it that when she looked like a dead person, she wasn't as beautiful as now? At this moment, Huang Pu Daki's heart was moved. Big Brother Daki? Duan Ruing frowned. She looked confused as she recalled and murmured, I seem to remember you. After saying that, she shook her head. After sleeping for half a month, her mind was a bit muddled. Ha ha ha, it's good that you remember. Sister Ruing, you're really beautiful. Come, let me check your pulse again. After saying that, Huangpu Daki wanted to break Duan Ruying's hand. Nephew Daki, please conduct yourself with dignity. Duan Tian, you snorted heavily. This snort was mixed with an imposing aura, causing Huangpu Daki to take a few steps back and immediately retract his hand. When Duan Ruying was frozen and lifeless, the disdain in Huangpu Daki's eyes did not escape Duan Tianya's eyes. Chapter 549. Even if his daughter was not the daughter of a wealthy family, she was not someone who could be touched by anyone. Duan Tianya did not feel any medical ethics from Huangpu Daki. It was more like he was here to take advantage of Huangpu Daki. You really have no sense of shame. I was the one who cured Sister Ruing. What else do you have to say now? Kneel down and apologize to me. Huangpu Daki was rebuffed and pointed his spear at Qin Hao again. I have no sense of shame? You want me to apologize to you? Why do you have to say that you were the one who cured Miss Ruing? Qin Hao was so angry that he laughed. He had never seen such a shameless person like Huangpu Daki. Then what makes you so sure that Miss Ruing did not wake up because of young Master Daki's herbs and elixirs? The yellow-haired middle-aged man quickly spoke up for Huangpu Daki. He stared at Qin Hao with a gloating expression. All right, if you can help Miss Ruing stand up, I will kill myself right now. Unfortunately, you can't do it, but I can. Qin Hao took a step forward and looked at Huangpu Daki with his deep eyes. After being bullied again and again, it was time for him to strike back. Gulp. In response, Huangpu Daki swallowed his saliva with difficulty and looked at Duan Ruing in an unnatural manner. Although Duan Ruing had woken up, with her weak body, it was a problem for her to even sit up, let alone stand up. Just like what Qin Hao said, Huangpu Daki was not confident. However, he did not give up. He walked to the bedside and said, Come, Sister Ruing, listen to Brother Daki. Stand up. Don't be looked down upon by others. Believe in yourself. Daki, is there something wrong with your head? Duan Tinya's eyes were cold and his face was extremely gloomy. Duan Ruing had just woken up and her qi had not even circulated for a full cycle. If she was forced to stand up, she would not be able to breathe and would most likely die. Even Heaven's End Cliff understood this principle, but Pu Daki did not care about it at all. He even dared to call himself the #1 pill refiner in the wasteland. He really could not see how talented he was. Sect leader Tinya, forgive me for speaking bluntly, but I didn't manage to completely cure Miss Ruing just now because her illness is very unusual. If I'm not wrong, when Miss Ruing was young, she swallowed some kind of beast's inner core out of curiosity. And this Niden was of the ice attribute. And a year later, only after that, did the cold symptoms begin to act up? Qin Hao took a step forward and asked, How did you know? It wasn't just the Heaven's End Cliff. At this moment, Duan Ruing's expression changed. This was her secret. Sir, Sect Master Tinya, please listen to me. You must have killed that ice beast. At that time, Miss Ruing was still young and was by your side. She was curious about the fragrance of the core, so she swallowed it for fun. Qin Hao began to speculate, and the results of his speculations were not wrong. When Duan Ruing was 6 years old, the Heaven's End Cliff had indeed killed an ice bird. The ice bird's inner core was accidentally swallowed by his daughter. The beast's inner core contained spiritual energy and could be used to refine pills. There were also people who directly swallowed it, so it was very normal. At that time, Duan Ruing was still very young and did not have the ability to refine it. However, the Heaven's End Cliff did not panic and used his tyrannical internal energy to help Duan Ruing digest the ice bird's inner core. From then on, he did not take it to heart. As time passed, the cold symptoms began to act up and became more and more serious. Until today, his daughter's life was almost lost. That ice beast was not simple. I speculate that it was at least a saint beast. When you killed it, it must have been severely injured. Furthermore, it compressed the beast's soul into the inner core. This beast's soul gradually merged with Miss Ru Ying's soul. To put it simply, the ice bird and your daughter became one, unless her soul was annihilated. Otherwise, the cold energy in her body would never disappear, because her body was the source of the cold energy. Qin Hao sighed. It was really a case of a loving father leading to a useless son. For Duan Ruiying, he did not know whether it was a disaster or a blessing. However, meeting Qin Hao today turned the disaster into a blessing. Suddenly, all the elders' faces changed. They thought that Duan Ruiying's cold symptoms were some kind of illness. It turned out that it was caused by swallowing the beast's inner core. No wonder we invited so many people, but still could not cure Ruiying. The beast's soul had merged with her soul. The elders deeply felt the seriousness of the situation. According to Qin Hao, unless the ice bird's soul was destroyed, the cold symptoms would follow Duan Ruiying for the rest of her life. The tricky part was that Duan Ruiying's soul had merged with the beast's soul. Mister, you're really a god. You've seen through everything with a single glance. You've described everything perfectly. Your medical skills are outstanding. Please save my daughter's life. Heaven's End Cliff was completely convinced by Qin Hao. Since the other party said the reason, there must be a way to save her. At the side, Huangpu Daqi could no longer remain calm. His face was extremely pale. The beast's soul had merged with her soul. How could he save her? This was simply a miracle. Not to mention Huangpu Daqi. Even if his grandfather, Huangpu Daqi, or his grandfather's grandfather's grandfather. In short, even if Dinda came, he would not be able to help. Miss Ruiying, do you trust me? Qin Hao revealed a rare, dignified expression as he walked to the bedside and asked, Mister, please save her. Duan Ruiying pursed her lips. Her eyes were filled with determination. It could be seen that she was a brave girl. Through Heaven's End Cliff's private explanation, she also understood that Qin Hao was here to help her. However, if the soul and beast soul merged, the pain was naturally not something a normal person could endure. Good. Today, I will bestow upon you a fortune. I will awaken the power that every elemental cultivator in the continent yearns for, the bestial soul. Following that, Qin Hao's words stirred up 1,000 ripples. The moment the words left his mouth, everyone in the room was shocked. What nonsense are you spouting? Huangpu Daqi was the first to shout hoarsely. He was practically roaring with bloodshot eyes. Could Qin Hao turn the beast's soul into a bestial soul? His ancestor, was he a god? Whether I am spouting nonsense or not, I will open your eyes right now. Don't forget to kneel down and apologize to me. Qin Hao did not want to bicker with Huangpu Daqi. However, Huangpu Daqi relied on his family background to show off everywhere. He thought that he was better than everyone else and wanted to gain a sense of superiority from Qin Hao. Today, I will definitely slap his face. After that, Qin Hao bent down and placed his hand under Duan Ruiying's body. Miss Ruiying, please forgive me for offending you. Following that, Qin Hao exerted force in his arms and carried Duan Ruiying's precious daughter in front of Heaven's End Cliff. He then walked out of the room. Heaven's End Cliff and the group of old men looked on helplessly. They did not dare to stop him. You bastard! Huangpu Daqi clenched his fists. His eyes were burning with jealousy. He did not even have the chance to get close to Duan Ruiying. Now, she was in Qin Hao's arms. Moreover, Duan Ruiying's father allowed Qin Hao to carry his daughter away. Envy, jealousy. Huangpu Daqi was going crazy with jealousy. Let's go and have a look. At this moment, everyone finally reacted and quickly chased out of the room. They wanted to see how Qin Hao would awaken the bestial soul for Duan Ruiying. It was too shocking and could be recorded in the history of the continent. Young Master Daqi, I try my best. After everyone left, the yellow-haired middle-aged man bent down and said with tears in his eyes, Get lost. Chapter 550. Miss Ruiying, the process will be very painful. Fortunately, it won't take long. Can you endure it? Outside the house, Qin Hao stood in the middle of the courtyard. The 2 rows of guards at the door tactfully dispersed. It was noon and the sun was very strong. The floor was very hot. Duan Ruying's body had just recovered. Under the waterfall, she could not endure it. Her forehead was covered in sweat, but she gritted her teeth and said, "I'm not afraid." If she could endure this, she would be reborn. If she could not endure it, she would rather die. She understood. Qin Hao nodded and looked at the group of old men running out. "I need help." Then, Qin Hao taught them a set of array. With him and Duan Ru Ying as the center, the 9 elders stood 5 meters apart and surrounded Qin Hao in a circle. Remember where you are standing. Later, use all your strength to condense the elemental fire above me. Do you understand? Understood. The old man shouted, eager to try. They were very proud and surprised to be able to participate in the awakening of elemental spirits. Wait a minute, what about me? At this time, the 9 elders stood around Qin Hao, waiting for his orders. The Broken Wave gang had 10 elders. The 10th elder was a little anxious. Why was he not allowed to participate in such a sacred task? 10th elder, go squat at the feet of the great elder and hold his leg tightly. Remember, don't let go without my orders. If not only will Miss Ru Ying's life be in danger, including me, all 12 of us will die. Qin Hao said with a smile, but his tone was very serious. He also stared at the 10th elder. Gulp! The 10th elder swallowed his saliva and thought to himself that his mission was the most important. Thus, he nodded obediently and said, "Don't worry, I broke Big Brother's leg. He won't be able to move even half a step." After saying that, the 10th elder squatted at the feet of the great elder and used all his strength. The old man's muscles were visible to the naked eye. His arms were like giant pythons as he hugged the great elder's leg tightly. At this moment, the great elder was hugged so tightly that he sucked in a breath of cold air. At the same time, Heaven's End Cliff, who was standing at the entrance, clenched his fists, his heart in his throat. His daughter's life and death depended on this. This is the 9 sons' separation and reunion formation. In his mind, the old demon said in shock, You actually know?" Qin Hao shuddered. Then, he remembered that the old demon was several times older than him in both his previous and current lives. He couldn't help but smile. "Master, please reconsider. You will lose your life." The old demon was extremely worried. The 9 sons' separation and reunion formation was an offensive formation. The place where Qin Hao was standing was not where the eye of the formation was, but where the attacks were the fiercest. In that instant, he understood that Qin Hao had used the separation and reunion grand formation to force out the beast spirit from Duan Ruying's body. But Qin Hao, withstanding 9 people's essence fire attacks, was simply treating his life as a joke. "Don't worry, their essence fire can't hurt me." Qin Hao gritted his teeth and secretly circulated his essence energy. He shouted, "Attack the essence fire!" Boom! 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 9 streaks of flames attacked from all directions, like 9 fiery dragons spurting out from their palms. They gathered above Qin Hao's head. Since Qin Hao had instructed them to give it their all, the 9 old fellows of the wave-breaking gang gave it their all. From low-level profound sages to high-level heavenly sages, all of them brought out their best skills, gritting their teeth as they ruthlessly attacked. This was especially so for the 3rd elder and the 2nd elder, who were both Yuan monarchs. The 1st elder's cultivation was the strongest, only 1 level lower than Heaven's End Cliff. He was a 6-star Yuan monarch. After the 9 streaks of flames gathered, they formed a huge fireball above Qin Hao's head. The fireball was covered in flames, and it was extremely hot. It was like the sun had descended from the sky. In the next second, the fireball spewed out a stream of lava and poured into the top of Qin Hao's head. Seeing this, even Huangpu Daki screamed in fright. "Lunatic! This kid is a lunatic! Uncle Tianya, stop him! Sister Ru Ying will die!" Beside them, Heaven's End Cliff clenched his fists so tightly that his veins were bulging. He did not move an inch. It was obvious that Qin Hao had already activated a defensive shield to protect Duan Ru Ying. Moreover, if Qin Hao wanted to harm Duan Ru Ying, why would he be so stupid as to sacrifice his own life? However, at this moment, Heaven's End Cliff was extremely nervous. He instinctively felt that no one below the level of a venerable could withstand the essence fire of the 9 elders of the Broken Wave Gang. Especially after the 9 elders formed a large array, the power of the essence fire doubled. If these 9 streaks of essence fire hit Heaven's End Cliff, he would probably be annihilated in a second. However, he could only choose to believe in Qin Hao. After all, this array was taught by Qin Hao. Boom! Magma gushed out. Duan Ruing closed her eyes with a terrified expression. She grabbed Qin Hao's clothes and instinctively hid in his arms. To her, it was the end of the world, but a miracle happened. When the origin fire that the 9 elders shot out together landed on Qin Hao's body, it was blocked by a layer of qi cover that suddenly appeared. The color of the qi cover was dark red like blood, and it isolated the burning power of the origin fire. However, the terrifying heat wave was transmitted in and enveloped Qin Hao and Duan Ruying's body. Woof woof! Roar! In the interspatial ring, the dog spirit stuck its head out and opened its mouth to absorb the heat from Qin Hao's body. It kept the heat within the range that Qin Hao could withstand. The dog spirit was not even afraid of the Red Lotus fire. So why would it be afraid of a mere human's essence fire? There's a dog barking. Duan Ruing hugged Qin Hao's neck tightly and vaguely heard it. Miss, you must be joking. You must be hallucinating. Qin Hao was also very unreasonable and directly denied it. Maybe I'm too hot, Duan Ruing nodded. Sensing that there was no danger, she finally dared to look at the magma above her head. However, in a short period of time, her clothes were soaked in sweat. Not only her, but Qin Hao was also the same. Therefore, the two's bodies were almost stuck together, giving them a strange feeling. Qin Hao was focused on saving people, so he could still control himself. Duan Ruing was fine. A young girl yearning for love, coupled with Qin Hao's handsome appearance. For a moment, she was dazed and her body had some indecent reactions. How could this be? Even Qin Hao was surprised. Logically speaking, Duan Ruing's body was as fragile as ice, so she should be in extreme pain. But now, she was actually enjoying it. After all, even Qin Hao couldn't hold on much longer. Could it be that this heat is Screech? Before Qin Hao could finish his words, a sharp bird's cry sounded. Suddenly, a bone-chilling cold air flew out from his chest and turned into a huge, illusory creature, hovering above Duan Ruing. It was a white bird, 3 meters in size. Its eyes were as sharp as an eagle's, and its claws were extremely sharp. It was full of hostility toward Qin Hao. As soon as it appeared, the surrounding temperature dropped rapidly. Qin Hao, who was burning with flames, felt like he had fallen into an ice abyss. It was incomparably painful. With the strength of a single bird, it was able to isolate the flames of the 9 elders of the Broken Wave Gang. Its strength could be seen clearly. It's actually a 7th level White Lawn. Chapter 551. Rank 7 White Lawn. Duantinya's face turned pale. He recognized the circling white bird as the ice bird that he had killed before. At that time, he thought that the ice bird was a rank 6 sacred beast. He did not expect it to be a rank 7 sacred beast king. There was another difference. When he killed the ice bird, it was 10 times bigger than it was now, and the cold air it exuded was white. Now, the cold air on the white bird was brown and dark green. It exuded a gloomy aura that was very terrifying. No wonder we couldn't cure Ru Ying even after finding so many people. It's the soul of a sacred beast king. All the elders were terrified. In fact, Qin Hao's judgment was still very conservative. To be exact, the ice bird's cultivation was at the peak of the sacred beast king realm. It was only half a step away from becoming a sacred beast king. When it was severely injured, it was killed by Duantinya's ants. Naturally, its resentment was monstrous. Since then, it had planted a seed of disaster in Duan Ruying's body. You only have one choice. I'll give you 3 breaths of time to consider, Qin Hao said to the circling white lawn. His tone was majestic, as if he was giving an order. This choice was to submit, disperse its resentment, and obediently become Duan Ru Ying's soul for her to use. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the next second, the white Luan was enraged. It let out a violent cry as it flapped its wings. Countless brown icicles fell towards Qin Hao. Stubborn. Qin Hao stepped on the ground, and the earth trembled. The Yuan Qi on his body rose again. The Yuan Qi shield that enveloped him and Duan Ru Ying's body became even stronger. At the same time, the dog spirit controlled the red lotus fire to weaken the red fire net, blocking the 9 sun separation and reunion formation. This allowed the 9 elders Yuan Qi to penetrate even more fiercely. Wang. Within the formation, the temperature suddenly rose. The cold abyss-like space suddenly turned into a fiery domain. Rolling heat waves immediately suppressed the white Luan's aura, and the icicles that covered the sky melted and dissipated. Screech. The white Luan became anxious. It seemed to be in extreme pain in the burning heat waves. Qin Hao was not in a good state either. His protective shield was reaching its limit. But compared to the white Luan, it was obviously much easier. Do you still want to resist? This is your last chance. Don't think that I don't have a way to destroy your last strand of soul. Qin Hao raised his head in a dignified manner. Traces of blood-red light flickered in his eyes. A power that seemed capable of devouring souls spread out from Baluan's body. This power naturally belonged to the old demon. The old demon cultivated the soul-devouring grand art, so he could enter Duan Ru Ying's body and sever the connection between her and Baluan, then absorb her remnant soul. However, this process was extremely harmful to Duan Ru Ying's soul. Moreover, Qin Hao was reluctant to kill Baluan. The fusion of a beast soul and a human soul was indeed a very strange thing. Baluan, my father has let you down. But since you've fused with my soul and secretly accompanied me as I grew up, you're like my father's second daughter, receiving his love. After all these years, can't you feel his love and affection? Harming me is the same as harming yourself. Please don't torture us anymore. There are 2 of us now. In Qin Hao's embrace, Duan Ru Ying said emotionally. Their souls were fused, so he could feel the unwillingness, loss, loneliness, pain, and hatred in her heart. At this moment, Baluan was moved. Even the trashiest dire beast had the intelligence of a 5-year-old child. Moreover, this was a peak 7th rank beast king, whose intelligence had reached the level of an adult. If she continued to struggle, she would only harm others and herself. Letting go of her resentment and fusing with Duan Ru Ying was equivalent to obtaining a second life. Why did you cultivate to the peak of Beast King? Isn't it to step into the Monarch realm and transform into a human to feel the warmth of the world? In fact, you've already achieved the fruit of your cultivation. As long as you fuse with Miss Ru Ying, you're her and she's you. It's just that your way of cultivation is different. No doubt, compared to other Beast Kings, you've taken a more ingenious shortcut. Moreover, after you become an adult, you'll have precious fatherly love. Qin Hao gave his last ultimatum. Baluan, I beg you to give me a chance to make up for my mistakes. Duan Ru Ying took a step forward, sincerely begging for forgiveness. Screech. Baluan let out a mournful cry, as if she was reluctant to part with something. Then, the brown cold air on her body gradually faded, and a sacred white air was produced. She had made her choice. Her body gradually dissipated in midair, turning into a soft white mist and entering Duan Ru Ying's body. Boom! At this moment, Duan Ru Ying and Baluan's souls fused completely. Her resentment was gone, and her eyes became incomparably bright in an instant, as beautiful as Baluan's eyes. There was also a new aura being emitted, making this seemingly ordinary girl look brand new. Vaguely, there was a noble aura. It's fused! Roar! The old demon and dog spirit exclaimed at the same time. The bee souls had transformed into the primordial spirits of the elementalists, opening up the continent. Disperse the formation. Qin Hao hurriedly gave the order, and the formation was completed. Buzz! The huge fireball above their heads dissipated, and the 9 sun separation formation was dispelled. Just as Qin Hao's voice fell, he could no longer hold onto Duan Ru Ying, and his tired body staggered a few times. Mr. Duan Ruing nimbly supported Qin Hao. The moment she made a move, she looked extremely extraordinary, as if she was an expert in the battlefield. My body, she was a little surprised as she looked at her hands. Lady, you have profited from a disaster, and your cultivation has improved by leaps and bounds. Now, try to communicate with Baluan in your body and awaken her power. Qin Hao instructed, and there was a trace of joy on his face. After all, this was the first time he had seen the fusion of a beast soul and a human soul. Although this fusion was fundamentally different from the primordial spirits of elementalists, the actual effect was exactly the same. In some aspects, it was even better than the primordial spirits. Yes, Duan Ruing nodded. At this moment, she was full of energy, and there was no trace of illness on her face. She closed her eyes. Baluan. She let out a mighty shout and opened her arms. Screech. The sacred cry of a bird was heard, and in an instant, an illusory, white figure appeared behind Duan Ruing. However, at this moment, Baluan's body was very large, at least 300 feet tall. It floated in the air and emitted an incomparably powerful pressure. This pressure caused the surrounding elders to step back and subconsciously increase their strength. Yuan Qi. This was because at this moment, the entire courtyard began to be filled with ice crystals. The 20 or so burly men with lower cultivation had already huddled together and were shivering from the cold. What a strong aura! 8-star mortal sage. But this aura is even stronger than a profound sage. My daughter has never liked to cultivate since she was young. She was just a small master yuan, and now she is a sage. There were sounds of surprise and shock all around. Especially those at the Duantian cliff. They could not believe it at all. Qin Hao smiled faintly, pointed to the sky, and continued, "Release your ultimate move." Oh no, to be precise, it is Baluan's innate attack skill. Thousand Feather Stab. Freezing Snow Sky. Whoosh. Almost instinctively, Duan Ruing raised her hand and launched an attack. Moreover, she was able to do two things at once, and she actually used two different ultimate moves at the same time, causing everyone to be shocked again. Under Duan Ruying's left palm, a row of dense and sharp icicles flew into the air. Under the sunlight, it was incomparably dazzling. As for her right hand, it emitted a ball of ice chi. Wherever the ice chi passed, ice would spread. Go! Chapter 552. No one would have thought that Qin Hao would attack the Great Elder. The Great Elder instinctively wanted to dodge when he was in danger. Duan Ruing's ice energy was extraordinary. It was not comparable to the ice techniques of ordinary Yuan masters. The two of them were not even on the same level. Duan Ruing had attacked with her essence soul, which was at the level of a Beast King. Imagine how terrifying it would be if she was hit. However, given Duan Ruing's current cultivation base, she would not be able to cause any serious damage to the Great Elder, who was a level 6 Yuan Monarch. However, the Great Elder did not think so. Duan Ruing was his granddaughter. He could not resist. He could only dodge. Therefore, he hurriedly leaped up. Suddenly, he felt as if there was a heavy mountain beneath his feet. There was a strong force that firmly held his legs to the ground. The Great Elder looked down and saw that it was the 10th Elder. The 10th Elder was looking at him solemnly. When the formation was activated, Qin Hao had warned the 10th Elder that unless he gave the order, the Great Elder was not allowed to move even half a step. Therefore, the simple-minded 10th Elder hugged his elder brother's legs with all his might. He gritted his teeth and said, "You want to run? Do you think you can run?" 10th Elder, you idiot! The Great Elder cursed angrily. Bang! A smothering blow. Duan Ruiying's palm landed accurately on the Great Elder's chest. The Great Elder could not help but vomit blood. He was unprepared and was sent flying. Together with the 10th Elder, he crashed into the rockery 10 meters away. The moment the Great Elder's legs left the ground, a layer of ice spread rapidly on his body. With a loud bang, the ice penetrated the rockery and created a human-shaped hole in the middle. This, brother, why did you? Everyone was shocked and at a loss. The Great Elder of Duan Ruiying shouted anxiously. If not for the fact that Qin Hao was Duan Ruiying's savior, and had saved his daughter, he would have killed Qin Hao without hesitation. The Great Elder was like a father to the Duan Ruiying. Sir, Duan Ruiying was also stunned. Don't worry, the Great Elder is fine. I will tell you the reason later. Now, I would like to ask you, Sect Leader Tianya, if you are satisfied with the strength of Miss Ruiying's palm strike? Qin Hao clasped his hands behind his back and asked the Heavens Endcliff with a smile. As for the Heavens Endcliff, he was naturally 100 times more satisfied, 1,000 times more satisfied, and his ancestors 10,000 times more satisfied. In a short period of time, Qin Hao had not only saved his daughter, but he had also awakened the soul of a beast king for Ru Ying to act as a source spirit. His cultivation improved by leaps and bounds, from a mere master Yuan to a mortal saint. No one would believe him if he told them about it. Satisfied, very satisfied. Ru Ying, how do you feel now? Duan Tianya's heart was filled with joy, and he instantly forgot all about the Great Elder. He quickly stepped forward and looked at his daughter earnestly. Father, I'm fine. I feel so strong. Duan Ru happily replied. At this moment, the White Luan soul had already been absorbed in her body and had fallen into a deep slumber. Following the awakening, one could obtain the opponent's innate primordial skill. Great, sir, your skills are amazing. I'm in awe. The elders lined up in a row and bowed respectfully to Qin Hao. This young man could be called an unparalleled prodigy. There's no need for that, Qin Hao replied calmly. Then, he turned and looked at a cowering figure. Young Master Daki, where are you going? Before you leave, shouldn't you fulfill your promise to me? Everyone followed Qin Hao's gaze and saw that Huangpu Daki was trying to sneak away. At this moment, everyone's face was filled with disdain. The truth was that the person who had dissolved Duan Ruiying's ice chi in a room was Qin Hao and not Huangpu Daki's so-called golden light pill and yin-yang basin. In that case, it was only natural for him to apologize to Qin Hao sincerely. Nephew Daki, as a prodigy of the Huangpu family, don't disgrace your grandfather's name. You should accept your loss. At this moment, Duan Tianya snorted coldly, and a wave of pressure swept toward Huangpu Daki. I apologize to you. Please forgive me. Huangpu Daki was forced to speak as he clenched his fists tightly. He knew that if he did not apologize today, Duan Tianya would not let him go easily. As a prodigy of the Huangpu family, Huangpu Daki, who had the title of the best young alchemist in the wasteland, had always been a superior existence. Others could only admire him. At this moment, his heart was filled with humiliation and anger. Do you think a mere apology is enough? You said it yourself. Kneel down and apologize. Qin Hao said. Crack. Huangpu Daki felt as if he was struck by lightning. His eyes turned red in an instant. He gritted his teeth and said, Kid, don't be ungrateful. You should be proud that I'm apologizing to you. You want to kneel down? Ha! Then I'll be frank. Absolutely not. After that, Huangpu Daki stretched out his hand and pointed at everyone's noses. He said arrogantly, Everyone, listen carefully. Who am I? I'm Huangpu Daki, and my grandfather is Huangpu Huichan, elders of the Duan Lang faction and Uncle Tianya. Please understand your place in the wasteland. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? If you support an outsider and force me to kneel down, you'll have to bear the consequences. After that, Huangpu Daki held his head high and walked out of the courtyard without a care in the world. Threats and contempt. It was blatant contempt and trampling. How arrogant. Damn it. How dare you look down on the Duan Lang faction? The elders were so angry that their teeth hurt. What if you have to kneel down today? Suddenly, Duan Tianya said coldly and waved his hand. Swoosh! 20 burly men in the courtyard blocked the entrance. To Duan Tianya, Qin Hao was not only the savior of his daughter, but also the savior of Duan Ruiying. He had helped her obtain her primordial spirit and increased her strength. If they could not give Qin Hao justice today, Duan Tianya would lose face in Qin province. They would be ridiculed by the other factions and even become a joke in the wasteland. Uncle Tianya, are you sure you can bear the consequences? Forget about the small Duan Lang faction. Think about the Qin family. The Qin family was a giant in the wasteland. They could be wiped out with a single thought from my Huangpu family. And there's one more thing I have to warn you. Great Elder Liefeng's illness is fatal. Unless I do something, he won't live past this year. Huangpu Daqi waved his hand and said. He had undoubtedly stepped on Duan Tianya's tail, and at the same time, he had also grasped Duan Tianya's weakness. The destruction of the Qin family was a taboo in Duan Tianya's heart. At that moment, they wanted to kill Huangpu Daqi. However, Grand Elder Liefeng's illness had indeed relapsed, and it was very serious. If the relationship between Duan Tianya and the Huangpu family was strained, no one in the wasteland could cure Grand Elder Liefeng. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. Suddenly, Grand Elder Liefeng's voice was heard. Then, he kicked away the rockery in front of him and carried the 10th Elder, who was foaming at the mouth, into the courtyard. In the next second, Grand Elder bowed to Qin Hao and said gratefully, "Thank you for saving my life, young master. The old man's illness has been completely cured." Chapter 553. Young Master, please explain to us what is going on. Just when the Heaven's End Cliff was in a dilemma, the great elder ran out and said that he had recovered. He cupped his hands and greeted Qin Hao. His address of Qin Hao had been raised from little brother to young master. Everyone was puzzled, including Huangpu Daqi. They all looked at Qin Hao. When I came to your residence, I saw the great elder at the door and knew the root of his illness, but I didn't say it out loud. Miss Ru Ying's palm, just now, was the solution. Qin Hao replied simply. Judging from the leaking of Guanyuan acupoint, the great elder's old illness was caused by fire. To be exact, the great elder had been hit by a fire-type palm. The fire-type palm burned into his abdomen and damaged his elemental meridians. It burned all the way to the Guanyuan acupoint, causing his cultivation to be unable to progress. The great elder had been suppressing the fire for a long time, causing his damaged meridians to be unable to bear the burden. The great elder was most used to healing himself at night, so that was the most painful time for him. Fortunately, the fire in his body only damaged his elemental meridians and did not break them. If he wanted to remedy it, the most common and stupid method was to use an ice-type elixir to gradually heal his damaged elemental meridians. With Huangpu Daqi's ability, it was not difficult to refine an elixir that could heal a king-level master's fire injury. Coincidentally, Duan Ru Ying had the White Phoenix Ice Soul, so her ice energy was the purest. Using the White Phoenix Ice Soul to heal the fire injury, it was like rain falling in the desert. It could cure the great elder's old illness. However, not everyone could perfectly control this kind of technique. Especially after the cold energy entered the body, it had to spread through the Guanyuan acupoint. Time was tight just now, so Qin Hao did not want to waste his time explaining to the great elder. After treating Duan Ru Ying, he acted swiftly to save the great elder. Of course, the 10th elder had contributed a lot. If the 10th elder did not hold the great elder's legs tightly and used his inner energy to imprison the great elder's lower body, Qin Hao would not have been able to guide Duan Ru Ying's palm accurately into the Guanyuan acupoint. It would have penetrated the soles of his feet. Wonderful, truly wonderful. Everyone's eyes lit up. With such precise control, young master's technique is like a deity descending from the heavens. I've lived for more than half my life, but I've never seen anyone as amazing as you, young master. Please accept another bow from me. Voila! This time, everyone, including the 20 men, saluted Qin Hao. Duan Ru Ying also placed her hands on her waist and squatted down slightly. Only Huangpu was surprised. He clenched his fists so hard that they creaked. His eyes were full of resentment toward Qin Hao. That's right. This time, he wasn't jealous of others. Instead, it was resentment. Intense resentment. It was as if Qin Hao shouldn't have spoiled his plans and shouldn't have saved the great elder. What I don't understand is, how did Sir Daqi know that the first elder would circulate his energy to heal himself at night? Did you hear it from someone else? Or did you already know about it and plan it beforehand? Qin Hao stared coldly at Huangpu Daqi. He could determine the root cause of the Great Elder's illness from the symptoms of his illness. However, Qin Hao couldn't have guessed that the Great Elder would heal himself at night. After all, he wasn't a deity. He couldn't predict when others would pee. However, Huangpu Daqi had the ability to do so. The fact proved that the Great Elder's injury wasn't as simple as it seemed. Of course, I heard it from someone else. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. I still have matters to attend to in my family. Excuse me. Huangpu Daqi left after saying that. Stop right there. Today, you have to explain to old man. Not only that, you have to kneel down and apologize to this young master. The Great Elder was the first to reach out and stop Huangpu Daqi. Huangpu Daqi wasn't the only one who didn't know about the Great Elder's healing at night. Only Duantian Cliff knew about this secret. Huangpu Daqi actually said that he heard it from someone else. Who was he trying to fool? He recalled that the Huangpu family had been coveting Duantian Cliff's power in Qin province for so many years and wanted Duantian Cliff to submit to them. Duantian Cliff remembered the kindness of the old master of the Qin family and always firmly rejected the other party. The Great Elder was suddenly injured and was on the verge of death. Huangpu Daqi came and said that he could save him. There was something fishy about this. At this moment, the Great Elder's turbid eyes flashed with a sharp light. He must have an explanation. Explanation? Why should I give you an explanation? What right do you have to receive an explanation from me, Huangpu Daqi? Are you trying to frame me? Haha, I'm afraid my grandfather won't agree. And you? Huangpu Daqi pointed at Qin Hao and gritted his teeth. Who sent you here? What's your purpose? He suspected that Qin Hao was ordered by someone to deliberately sabotage the Huangpu family's plan to reclaim Duantian Cliff. I'm just a passerby. Why are you so nervous? You must accept your loss. Kneel down. Qin Hao shouted. Huangpu Daqi had to kneel even if he didn't want to. His words of killing the entire Qin family with a single thought had severely touched Qin Hao's bottom line. The hatred of his family members being killed was irreconcilable. TSK trash. What can I do if I don't kneel? Go eat shit. Huangpu Daqi spat a mouthful of dirty water at Qin Hao. Swoosh, swoosh. In the next second, 2 rays of light shot out from Qin Hao's position. They were incredibly fast. Poochie. They pierced Huangpu Daqi's calf. Immediately, a burning pain came. Huangpu Daqi screamed and fell to his knees involuntarily. From a high and mighty posture, he instantly crawled in front of Qin Hao. You trash! I'll kill you! Huangpu Daqi let out a hoarse voice and his eyes were bloodshot. Other than his grandfather and father, he had never bowed to anyone, not even the Huangpu family's patriarch. He was the #1 genius of the wasteland. Today, he knelt in front of Qin Hao. In the eyes of Huangpu Daqi, what was Qin Hao? In his rage, he shot up from the ground like a mad bear and rushed toward Qin Hao. His fists were wrapped in powerful yuan qi. His cultivation of a 3-star mortal saint was pushed to the limit. Trash? Let's see who's the trash. Qin Hao's reaction was even faster. Whoosh! A shadow flashed out from where Qin Hao was standing and crashed into Huangpu Daqi, who was rushing at him. At this moment, the 2 figures passed through each other. A dazzling sword light flashed and disappeared. A fountain of blood flew in front of everyone. You dare to kill me? Huangpu Daqi's body stopped. Blood gushed out from his throat, and a deep sword mark appeared. He wanted to turn his head to look at Qin Hao, but just as he turned his neck half a circle, gulp! His head fell to the ground and rolled under the yellow-haired man's feet. The yellow-haired middle-aged man was so scared that he lost his voice and screamed in terror. He fell to the ground in a sorry state. Huangpu Daqi was dead. He was slaughtered like a dog and died in the Breaking Wave faction. This was a big deal. Without a doubt, this news would spread to Qinzhou and shake the entire wasteland. Huangpu Daqi was likely to be the next patriarch of the Huangpu family. After all, the current patriarch had no son. Boom! All the elders of the Broken Wave sect, including those from the Heavens and Cliff, as well as the burly men in the courtyard, were shocked as if they had been struck by lightning. They looked at Qin Hao in disbelief. Chapter 554. You scoundrel, you deserve to die. With a wave of his hand, Qin Hao kept the dragon-slaying sword in his infinite space ring. This time, it was as Dugajin had said in Huayang City. The dragon-slaying sword would definitely help Qin Hao get rid of all the scoundrels in the world and establish an immortal achievement. And Qin Hao's first target was the 3 aristocratic families. Savior, you're in big trouble. The Grand Elder's face was extremely pale. He did not even dare to look at the bloody head of Huangpu Daqi on the ground. Huangpu Huichun will definitely be furious. They will use the power of their entire family and even the Shimin and Dugu families to kill us. Just like Qin Hao's annihilation, the Broken Way faction will be wiped out in one night. What should we do? After the elders recovered from their shock, fear followed. It was as if at this moment, there was a dark cloud that covered the sky and covered the Qin state. The 20 strong men in the courtyard could not help but tremble. The elders could still pretend to be calm. As members of the faction, if it were not for the fact that Duantian had saved their lives, they would have immediately announced that they were no longer a member of the Broken Way faction and run away. There were also some people who looked at Qin Hao with resentment. They thought that Qin Hao was a lucky star who had saved the First Lady and the Grand Elder. Who would have thought that he was a scourge who had brought disaster to the Broken Way faction? So what if he's dead? He's just a sanctimonious bastard. What's the big deal? Duantian put his hands behind his back and said seriously. Other than Qin Hao, he was the only one who could keep calm. He even deliberately looked at the head of Huangpu Daqi, his eyes full of disdain. Although he said that, he could foresee that the consequences would be severe. Duantian walked to Qin Hao and said, "Little brother, don't be afraid. No matter what happens, I'll take care of it for you. Now, everyone listen up. Those with parents, leave the Broken Way faction immediately. Those with young children, leave the Broken Way faction. Those who haven't married, leave immediately. Go to the ends of the earth, and don't return to the wasteland. As for the others, if the gang exists, they'll live. If the gang is destroyed, they'll die. Little brother, leave quickly. Uncle Lifeng, take Ru Ying and leave immediately." It had to be said that the Heaven's End Cliff was a real man. He was rather calm when dealing with matters. Fight it out with them. At worst, we'll just die. Besides, we won't be able to escape the wasteland. If we help, we'll be there. If we help, we'll die. F***CK them. The men in the courtyard were infected by the heroic spirit of the Heavens End Cliff, and their blood boiled as they held their weapons and howled, with the impulse to fight to the death. Clang! With a wave of his hand, Qin Hao threw a piece of iron into the courtyard. They wanted to kill me. It has nothing to do with you. My life and death are up to fate. Your riches and honor can be guaranteed. If the people of the Huangpu clan come, I'll show them this. Please tell Huangpu Huichun that it was Dugu Jin's uncle who killed him. Grandson, if you have a grudge, go find Dugu Jin. Crack! Everyone's eyeballs almost fell to their feet. Their mouths were wide open as they looked at the piece of iron on the ground. To be precise, it was a gold plate with the word Dugu engraved on it. Whether it was the Heavens End Cliff or the Elders, they were all very familiar with this item. This token was owned by the inner pavilion elder of the Dugu clan. Moreover, he was qualified to control the internal affairs of the Dugu clan. Who are you? The Heavens End Cliff couldn't help but cautiously stare at Qin Hao. Qin Hao had the token of the Dugu clan, so he should be an important direct descendant of the Dugu clan. However, in everyone's impression, other than Dugu Ji and his elder brother, no other descendant of the Dugu clan had reached the profound sage realm. However, Qin Hao, a profound sage, was able to kill the third-rank profound sage Huangpu Daqi in an instant. The other party didn't even have the strength to fight back. What made the Heavens End Cliff even more puzzled was why Qin Hao, a descendant of one of the 3 great clans, would kill Huangpu Daqi. The relationship between the Dugu clan and the Huangpu clan was very secretive. When a younger generation met, they were like brothers. Logically speaking, not to mention killing Huangpu Daqi, Qin Hao shouldn't have even let the other party apologize. Could it be Qin Hao's purpose was to bribe the Heavens End Cliff? To serve the Dugu clan? Nodding, the Heaven's End cliff confirmed this conjecture. Moreover, this was the only reason that could explain Qin Hao's actions. I don't care who you are, but I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. I'm sure that someone will not side with any of the three great clans. Please, the Heavens End Cliff originally wanted to chase Qin Hao away. Sect leader Heavens End Cliff, let your guard down. I'm not from the three great clans. Furthermore, Miss Ru Ying's illness has not completely stabilized. If you trust me, please take out the bloodlingji mushroom from your residence. The more, the better. In short, I want to refine the 9 revolving essence solidifying pill for Miss Ru Ying. Pill, Qin Hao said righteously. Master, you're a little shameless. Woof, woof, roar. In his mind, the voices of the old demon and the dog's spirit rang out. Qin Hao's expression did not change. All right, since you don't want to reveal your identity, I'll accept this token. Men, take all the blood lingji mushrooms from the warehouse. As he spoke, the Heaven's End Cliff picked up the Duga token. With this item, the Huangpu clan and the Dugu clan would definitely fight to the death. At this moment, the Heaven's End Cliff no longer cared about Qin Hao's identity. On the contrary, he was more willing to see the Huangpu clan and the Dugu clan fight. With a wave of his hand, he ordered an elder to take the Sumeru pouch and take the blood lingji mushrooms from the Broken Wave Gang's warehouse. He handed it over to Qin Hao. Qin Hao weighed it in his hand, and his lips curled into a smile. In terms of weight, there were about 60,000 kilograms. It was indeed a lot. In that case, I'll take my leave first. Oh, I'm staying at the White Cloud Inn in the Heavenly Purple District. It's under your jurisdiction. 4 days later, you can send someone to take the 9 Revolutions Essence Fortifying Pill. After saying that, Qin Hao cupped his fists and left for the next stop, the medicine shop. He bought all the blood lingji mushrooms in the medicine shop. Just as Aku said, 50,000 kilograms should be enough. Next, he just had to wait for Pu Yu's next instructions and hand over the 50,000 jin of blood lingji to Qin Yan. Father, this person is very strange. Duan Ruing looked at Qin Hao's back and said, after fusing with Balwan's soul, she could clearly feel that Qin Hao's body also had a beast aura. The beast aura's level was not low. It was almost at the king level. This beast aura was naturally emitted by the dog spirit. Duan Ruing remembered that Qin Hao had saved her life, so she did not expose this secret. Moreover, she did not believe that Qin Hao had the 9 Revolutions Essence Fortifying Pill. In fact, she knew better than anyone else that her illness had been completely cured. She couldn't be any better. Third Elder, send someone to investigate this person's background and everything that happened in the wasteland. I want to know who he is. Duan Ruya ordered. Qin Hao's actions were not as simple as being strange. Duan Ruya recognized the rusty dragon-slaying sword that cut off the head of the Huangpu Daki. It was the sword of the Qin family's old master. The old master of the Qin family had once used the dragon-slaying sword to save Duan Ruya's life. With a single slash, he had destroyed the enemy that was chasing after Duan Ruya. How could he be wrong? At this moment, Duan Ruya had a feeling that Qin Hao was here to exterminate the Qin family. All right, I'll go now. Chapter 555. He's dead. That brat actually killed young Master Daki with a single strike. What use do I have in the Broken Wave faction? After Qin Hao left, the people from the Duantian Cliffs left. The yellow-haired, middle-aged man's withered eyes darted around as he looked in the direction where Qin Hao had left. His eyes were filled with malice. To him, Qin Hao had not only cut off Huangpu Daki's head, but he had also cut off the yellow-haired, middle-aged man's career path. In fact, the yellow-haired middle-aged man was Huangpu Daki's spy. It's good that Huangpu Daki is dead. After all, I'm not dead. No matter who that brat is, I have to contact the life-severing fire palm and let him kill that brat first. Then, I will go and find the Huangpu Huichun Grand Elder to receive my reward. The yellow-haired, middle-aged man nodded and left anxiously. If the Grand Elder heard him mention the life-severing fire palm, he would probably kill the yellow-haired middle-aged man. The life-severing fire palm was the #1 killer in the wasteland. His palm techniques were extremely vicious, and he cultivated a unique fire attack. In the past, the Huangpu family had bribed the life-severing fire palm and severely injured the Grand Elder. Then, they had conspired to treat the Grand Elder. The Duantian Cliffs would definitely be grateful and submit to the Huangpu family. However, Qin Hao's unexpected appearance had saved the Grand Elder from the fire poison palm. What the yellow-haired middle-aged man wanted to do now was to bribe the #1 killer in the wasteland to get rid of Qin Hao. Even the Grand Elder, a level 6 Yuan Monarch, was not a match for the life-severing fire palm. Killing Qin Hao would be a piece of cake. The yellow-haired middle-aged man took Qin Hao's head to receive his reward and soared to the top. On the way, Qin Hao pondered as he walked. In fact, he did not need to return to the White Cloud Inn to refine the 9 transformation essence fortifying pill. Even if he did not appear in 4 days, Duan Ruiying would not be in an accident. It turns out that a beast soul can really merge with a human soul and increase one's cultivation and strength in a short period of time. Qin Hao muttered to himself. In his previous life, he had read about such a thing in an ancient book. A ferocious beast growing into a beast king was like a body-tempering realm cultivator becoming a king realm expert. 10 years, 50 years, or even 100 years. One could only imagine the hardships involved. How could it be so easy for a ferocious beast to abandon its physical body and have its soul controlled by a human? But today, Qin Hao learned something new. The rumors were true. Beast souls could fuse with human souls. Of course, this process was quite complicated. Letting Bai Luan act as Duan Ruiying's primordial spirit was not only because of Qin Hao's threat, but also because Duan Ruiying and her father, Duan Ruya, were deeply moved by each other. In fact, if the two souls were to fuse, the most important factor was whether Bai Luan was willing. I believe that the reason why the person known as the Water God was able to become a god in the end was because he obtained the power of the soul sacrifice of his guardian beast. Qin Hao sighed, feeling somewhat sorrowful. There had been others who had become gods in the divine wilderness continent before. As Qin Hao expected, there was a person called Tang 13 in the ancient book who had the cultivation of Emperor Yuan. His guardian beast was also the Beast Emperor. Only by fusing the souls of the two emperors into one could he break through the shackles of the heavenly Tao. However, for the Beast Emperor, who had cultivated step by step, it was obviously very unfair. Roar! Roar! At this moment, the dog spirit's roar sounded. It meant that if Qin Hao needed its power one day, it would not hesitate to sacrifice itself to him, even if it no longer existed. This, Qin Hao stopped in his tracks and said with a gloomy face, "You're thinking too much." Obviously, Qin Hao rejected the other party's good intentions. The dog spirit had too many special hobbies. For example, it liked to swallow other people's indecent objects. Once Qin Hao's soul fused with it, he would obtain the other party's natural skills, such as spitting fire from its mouth. Moreover, Qin Hao's strength would increase rapidly. However, in daily life, he would subconsciously accept the other party's hobbies and habits. Qin Hao did not like the dog spirit's hobbies and habits. Its habit of swallowing other people's indecent objects was too perverted. Of course, Qin Hao felt a strong surge of warmth in his heart. He was actually very touched by the dog spirit. However, he would definitely not give the dog spirit the chance to sacrifice itself. That day would definitely not come. Between the words, Qin Hao arrived in front of the medicinal shop. The medicinal shop was not in the Tianzi district, but in the Tianhua district. The Tianhua district was a public area in Qin province and was not under the jurisdiction of any gang. This was because the medicinal shop itself was very strong and did not need to find a backer. The Qin province was extremely chaotic, so Dan Good did not build a branch here. The medicinal shop was formed by a few wandering alchemists, and there was no lack of experts among them. After the fall of the Qing dynasty, there were hidden treasures of the royal family in the abandoned capital, especially in the Qin province. If the adventurers who came because of its reputation wanted to survive in the chaotic Qin province, they definitely needed to have elixirs with them. Therefore, no matter which gang or lone ranger, they were all very respectful to the medicinal shop. I want the blood lingji mushroom, all of it. Stepping into the medicinal shop, he found that it was very big, comparable to the high family business in the capital of Luoshui. It was divided into several floors. Qin Hao walked to the front desk of the hall and directly exited. "All right, sir, please follow me." "Wait, what did you say?" "All of it." A seemingly smart young man received Qin Hao. Immediately, he stopped in his tracks and stared at him in disbelief. Buying all of the blood lingji mushroom in the medicinal shop was extremely arrogant. Even the most powerful broken wave gang in the Qin province would not be able to gather such a huge amount of money in such a short time. "Sir, you want to buy all of the blood lingji mushroom in our medicinal shop? Please repeat yourself. Are you sure you're not joking with me?" The young man sneered. His originally respectful attitude took a turn for the worse and became icy cold. He thought that Qin Hao was not here to buy medicine at all, but was deliberately looking for trouble. "Listen carefully. I will repeat myself one more time, and also for the last time. I want to buy all of your blood lingji mushroom." In response, Qin Hao said firmly in a sonorous tone, "Ha ha, little brat, where did you come from? Go home and find your parents. They're very worried about you." "Buying all of the blood lingji mushroom in the medicinal shop? You are making me laugh my head off. Even the Tibetan Mastiff gang does not talk so big. How arrogant." A large group of people rushed over. They were all burly men with scars all over their bodies. They stared unkindly at Qin Hao and sized him up with a sense of mockery. Whoosh! Qin Hao waved his hand. Suddenly, a dazzling brilliance flashed, and countless black crystals rolled into his palm like pearls. In the blink of an eye, they accumulated into a small mountain in front of the front desk. At a glance, there were at least 100,000 of them, along with the dazzling brilliance. It was simply blinding to the eyes of the surrounding people. The young man who received Qin Hao was stunned. The burly men who were full of mockery were also dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Surprise, shock, ecstasy, and greed appeared on everyone's faces. "Is it enough? If not, I have more here. Of course, if you can guarantee that the medicinal shop has enough blood lingji mushroom in stock." Chapter 556. Enough, enough. I'll go find a manager and get all the blood lingji mushrooms for you. The young man's attitude immediately changed back to respect. He turned around and hurried to find a manager. There were too many mysterious crystals. With his cultivation, he couldn't count them all in a short time. He had to find a strong manager and use his mind to detect the exact number of mysterious crystals. "Little brother, my name is Kong Wudi. I'm quite famous in Qin Prefecture. This place is very chaotic. Killing and robbing happen all the time. If you don't have anyone to protect you, I'm afraid you won't be able to walk out of Tianhua District today. I, Kong Wudi, have always been an upright person. I feel like you're an old friend at first sight. I want to become your brother, but I'm a little short on money recently. If you share 50% of the blood lingji mushrooms with me, I can guarantee your safety." After the young man left, a large group of people looked at Qin Hao with greedy eyes. They were like a group of hungry wolves eyeing their prey. Among them, a tall man swaggered out with his hands behind his back. He smiled and said to Qin Hao. After he finished speaking, he glared at the surrounding people. What he meant was that Qin Hao, this fat sheep, was now his, Kong Wudi's, to take. He was right. Qin Prefecture was as chaotic as Jiang Country's exploding flame city. In fact, it was dozens of times more chaotic. Looking at Qin Hao's appearance, it seemed like he had just arrived. If he didn't have anyone to back him up, he would be torn to pieces as soon as he stepped out of the pharmacy. As soon as Kong Wudi appeared, a large group of scarred men shook their heads and sighed. They subconsciously took a few steps back. Kong Wudi's skills were indeed impressive. If he wanted to snatch Qin Hao, no one here could be his opponent. 50%? Who do you think you are? How dare you ask for 50%? Suddenly, a clamor was heard. Everyone was shocked. They subconsciously looked back. Someone actually dared to challenge Kong Wudi. When they looked back, their faces changed. They saw a thin and short old man walking over. His aura was vigorous. On his back, he carried a 3-meter-long giant saber. The length of the giant saber was more than twice the height of the old man. This saber was slung diagonally on his back. It appeared to be extremely heavy and extraordinarily mighty. It was truly frightening. There are countless swordsmen in Qin Prefecture, but there are no more than 3 people who are good at using giant swords. The oldest one, could it be? Someone pointed at the old man, trying to guess his identity. The more they thought about it, the more frightened they became. The old man is Qinzhou's #1 blade, Wu Sanling. The old man walked to the center of the stage and stood face to face with Kong Wudi. One was tall and the other was short. The sturdy and the old formed a striking contrast. Although Wu Sanling's stature didn't reach Kong Wudi's chest, he stood there like a towering mountain. His aura suppressed Kong Wudi, causing Kong Wudi to look up at him. Old Wu, isn't this against the rules? I was the one who hunted the target first. Pucci. Before Kong Wudi could finish his words, Wu Sanling's shoulder shook, and the huge saber on his back suddenly flashed with saber chi. The saber chi turned into a sharp white blade that flew past Kong Wudi's knees. This attack immediately cut off the other party's legs. Kong Wudi let out a blood-curdling scream and fell in front of Wu Sanling. Rules? The saber on my back is the rules. A trash second-rank, profound sage dares to talk about rules in front of the old man. And you dare to be taller than me? Today I'll cut off your legs and scram. Wu Sanling said in a deep voice. Thank you for not killing me, old Wu. I'll scram now. Kong Wudi clenched his teeth and firmly obeyed the order. His body stayed close to the ground as he rolled out of the hall, leaving behind a trail of blood. He didn't even dare to turn his head back. Seeing this scene, everyone was overwhelmed with shock. Their legs uncontrollably squatted down, and they arched their bodies like wild cats. Because Kong Wudi was taller than Wu Sanling, his legs were cut off. At this moment, who would dare to straighten their bodies in front of Wu Sanling? With just saber chi, he had crippled a second-rank, profound sage Kong Wudi. Wu Sanling's cultivation was at least at the 5th rank, or even higher. Regarding this, Wu Sanling was quite satisfied. He nodded and immediately turned to look at Qin Hao. He couldn't help but frown. At this moment, everyone was bowing down, intimidated by Wu Sanling. Only Qin Hao was standing straight. Moreover, his expression didn't change, and he was even expressionless. It had to be said that Qin Hao was 17 years old this year. Cultivating the indestructible samsara art had greatly transformed his body. His height was clearly much higher than ordinary youths, reaching 1.8 meters. It was also clear that his height was much higher than Wu Sanling's. Wu Sanling was simply asking for humiliation by standing together with Qin Hao. However, he wasn't angry. Instead, he said with a smile, "Kid, you're not bad. You have a handsome face, a tall and straight figure, and an extraordinary bearing. You have quite the handsomeness of the old man back then. I have a good impression of you." As soon as these words came out, the surrounding people despised Wu Sanling in their hearts. Wu Sanling really knew how to stick gold on his face. How could a dog like you talk about handsomeness? And then, Qin Hao said with an expressionless face. He wasn't affected by Wu Sanling's aura at all. In fact, Wu Sanling wasn't even worth a fart in front of Qin Hao. He was just an 8-star profound sage. Qin Hao had already seen through him. With Qin Hao's current strength as a 6th-stage profound sage, he could fight against a heavenly sage if he went all out. Therefore, Qin Hao really didn't care about Wu Sanling's rules. Then, I want to accept you as my grandson and impart to you old man's invincible saber technique that could destroy heaven and earth. Of course, there's also the saber on my back. Wu Sanling continued. His words stunned everyone. Since when did Wu Sanling become so kind? He wanted to accept Qin Hao as his grandson and impart saber techniques and weapons. This was completely different from his ruthless style just now. But in the next moment, Wu Sanling's foxtail was revealed. He pointed at the 2 towering crystal mountains and said with a smile, but Grandpa's tuberculosis is acting up again. I need some blood Lingji to nourish my body. I don't need too much. I only need 90% of you. How about it? You're right. Grandpa doesn't have any objections to my rules, right? I have objections. Suddenly, before Qin Hao could say anything, another voice was heard. This voice was full of contempt. You're courting death. Wu Sanlang was furious, and his shoulders shook again. Whoosh! A white blade flew out from the huge saber on his back, following the direction of the voice and slashing toward the person who spoke. It was a group of people. To be exact, the one who spoke was a middle-aged man. But behind him, there were more than a dozen fierce-looking men. Each of them had a majestic body, and there were more than 10 of them. At this time, the sharp saber energy flew over. The middle-aged man sneered and raised his hand to slap it. Bang! With one strike, the saber energy vanished into thin air. How is this possible? Wu Sanlang's face turned pale. The other party had used only one hand to easily disperse his invincible saber chi. Just how strong and terrifying was the other party's cultivation? How dare you call yourself the #1 saber artist in Qin province with your mediocre skills? The middle-aged man blew at his palm. There wasn't even a scar on his hand, and not even a piece of skin fell off. He walked over with ease. The hall master of the prestige hall is here. Those who have nothing to do with this, F***CK off. Chapter 557. He's from the Prestige Gang, and he's the leader of the Prestige Gang, the most untouchable gang. Everyone retreated in fear. The Prestige Gang was the second largest gang in Qinzhou, and its strength was close to that of the Broken Wave Gang. So it's the leader of the Prestige Gang, Lord Qin Xiu. Please forgive me for offending you. When Wu Sanlang saw Qin Xiu, he immediately gave in and apologized to the middle-aged man like a grandson. No wonder he dared to speak so arrogantly. Qin Xiu was a traitor of the Qin family, and his cultivation was even higher than Wu Sanlang's. He was a peak profound sage. He might even be a heavenly sage. Qin Xiu? Qin Hao's eyebrows suddenly knitted together. In a wasteland, Qin was a taboo. Why did this middle-aged man dare to use the surname Qin and live well? Not only was he living well, but he also seemed to be doing well. Qin Xiu? Huh, no one has dared to call me that for many years. It seems that you, Wu Sanlang, are extraordinarily bold. When a middle-aged man named Qin Xiu heard his name, his eyes suddenly became gloomy. Wu Sanlang had violated his taboo, so he was now called Dugu Xiu. I'm really sorry, Lord Dugu Xiu. Please forgive me. Wu Sanlang's head was covered in cold sweat. Forget it. It's a small matter. You don't have to be scared. I didn't say that I wouldn't forgive you. It's just that I find this young man quite pleasing to the eye, and I want to adopt him as my son. Do you understand? Qin Xiu looked at Wu Sanlang coldly and smiled. His meaning was obvious. The weak were prey to the strong. Qin Hao, this fat sheep, now belonged to Qin Xiu. Wu Sanlang was not to be touched. Yes, I understand. I'll leave right away. Wu Sanlang's reaction was not slower than Kong Wudi's, so he turned and left. When he left, he sighed and looked at Qin Hao unwillingly. 90% of the bloodling Ji was picked by someone else just like that. Wait, I haven't forgiven you yet. How can you leave just like that? At this time, Qin Xiu said, Lord Dugu Xiu, you. Wu Sanlang suddenly felt that something was wrong. You what? Cripple your own hands and get lost. The tiger-faced man next to Qin Xiu said impatiently. In order to compete for the blood Ganoderma in Qin Hao's hands, Qin Hao just said that he would recognize Qin Hao as his adopted son, but Wu Sanlang wanted to recognize Qin Hao as his grandson. This was obviously riding on the head of the prestige hall. Who do you think you are? Wu Sanlang shouted as he stared at the tiger-faced man. A mere minion of prestige hall dared to point at the nose of the #1 blade of Qinzhou. If it weren't for the existence of Qin Xiu, Wu Sanlang would have released his blade Qi and cut off the head of the tiger-faced man. Whoosh! Qin Xiu decisively made a move. Without any nonsense, his body flashed like a shadow. His right hand stretched out, turned into a fist, and punched Wu Sanlang in the chest. His fist exploded with orange light, bringing with it a strong gust of wind. It had the power to collapse mountains, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. This punch was quite powerful. When the fist chi was released, there was a sense of suffocation. You've gone too far. Eat this old man's blade. Wu Sanlang saw that he couldn't be kind and chose to resist. He reached out to grab the giant blade on his back. The speed of Qin Xiu's punch was quite fast. After all, he was much stronger than Wu Sanlang in terms of realm. In the end, Wu Sanlang didn't have the chance to use any blade technique of destruction. Pong! He was hit in the chest by Qin Xiu. This was an extremely dull sound, accompanied by the sound of bones breaking. It was as if Qin Xiu's punch on Wu Sanlang's body was like a mountain that had collapsed. Immediately, Wu Sanlang's small body flew upside down. He spat out a large amount of blood and fell to the ground. After falling to the ground, the clothes on his chest were torn and a fist mark appeared on his chest. Minute collapsing fist. Qin Hao was shocked. The qi circulation of this punch and the movement of Qin Xiu's punch were exactly the same as the minute collapsing fist that his grandfather Qin Shilong had practiced. The minute collapsing fist was also a secret technique of the Qin family in Akita town. It was a low-level, profound level martial arts technique. However, regardless of power or technique, Qin Xiu's punch was much more exquisite than the minute collapsing fist. In fact, as the main branch of Qin Hao's family, the Qin clansmen of the wasteland Qin state practiced the giant collapsing fist. The true level of the giant collapsing fist was a high-level earth-level martial arts technique. Qin Shilong's minute collapsing fist was only an entry-level fist technique of the giant collapsing fist. Duge Qiu, you are too cruel. You actually destroyed my cultivation? Wu Sanlang lay on the ground as if he was paralyzed and couldn't get up for a long time. The moment he was hit, the bones in his upper body were all shattered under the violent power. His meridians were also torn apart. At this time, Wu Sanlang was already crippled by Qin Xiu's giant collapsing fist. If you aren't cruel, you won't be able to stand firm. Now that I have forgiven you, get lost like a dog. In response, Qin Xiu put his hands behind his back and a cruel smile appeared on his face. Why would the Qin family take in such a treacherous person like you? Qin Xiu, I will curse your ancestors. You will die a horrible death. Wu Sanlang's cultivation was destroyed. He knew that once he left the pharmacy, he would be killed by his former enemies. At the very least, Kong Wudi, who had just left, would be the first to kill Wu Sanlang. Qin Zhou was so cruel. Without strength, one couldn't survive. As for Qin Xiu, he loved to see others struggling in pain and despair, just like the Qin family members who were killed by him in the past. You don't know what's good for you. Qin Xiu waved his hand, and a palm, Qi hit Wu Sanlang. This blow completely sent him to hell. Then he waved his hand and said, carry him out and feed him to the dogs. How dare you belittle my identity? The Qin family is the lowest family name in the world. My surname is no longer Qin. My surname is Duge now. After saying that, Qin Xiu raised his head with a proud look on his face. Creak! Qin Hao secretly clenched his fist. Qin Xiu's words were undoubtedly a provocation to all the martial artists on the continent with the surname Qin. Aside from his family, Qin Hao's surname was also Qin in his previous life. He also established the top family in the East Continent, the Qin royal family. In Qin Xiu's eyes, the strongest royal family on the continent was actually the lowest family. Based on this, there was no need for Qin Xiu to live. Haha, son, don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. You came to this chaotic place in Qinzhou at such a young age. How can you not have a backer? Let me be frank. I won't take 90% of the blood Ganoderma you by like Wu Sanlang. I only want 10%. Of course, from now on, you'll be honored. You'll become a dog under my feet. Son, come on, son, call me father. Qin Xiu also smiled and reached out his hand, wanting to pat Qin Hao's face. Ha ha! At this moment, the whole hall of the pharmacy was filled with laughter. The members of the prestige hall laughed wildly. Dog son, that was too funny. But in Qinzhou, there was no reason to speak of. Only strength could win respect. The strong lived, the weak died. Pa! Qin Hao raised his hand and pushed Qin Xiu away. Sorry, my father is a great hero. He can sacrifice his life for the family. But you're a useless traitor. I don't even want you to be my grandson. Although he didn't know Qin Xiu, Qin Hao had already guessed Qin Xiu's origin from the conversation between Wu Samlang and the other party. This person was a member of the Qin family in the wasteland, but he betrayed his ancestors and became a dog for his enemy. He was proud to be a dog of the Duga family. Chapter 558. The atmosphere became tense again. In the eyes of others, Qin Hao might not have the chance to be Qin Xiu's son. He would definitely become a dead body. Hallmaster Qin Xiu is so bold. Your prestige gang can behave atrociously elsewhere, but today you are so unscrupulous. How dare you make trouble in our pharmacy? Suddenly, an aged voice resounded. Then he saw that the young man who had received Qin Hao was walking over with an old man. Greetings, Steward Chung. Everyone hurriedly saluted. The old man's status was not low. He was the top steward of the pharmacy and also a sixth-grade alchemist of the heavenly sage realm. He was highly respected. Qin Xiu smiled unnaturally, withdrew the murderous look on his face, and gradually stepped back. He could kill Wu Samlang without any scruples, but he really did not dare to kill Qin Hao. Qin Hao was currently a customer of the pharmacy and had placed an order. The mysterious crystals belonged to the pharmacy. In other words, if Qin Xiu robbed him at this time, it was undoubtedly a declaration of war against the pharmacy. But after the deal was done, it was a different story. So under the leadership of Qin Xiu, a group of men of Prestige Gang retreated out of the hall. Boy, come out if you dare. Your father will squat at the door and guard you today. In the distance, Qin Xiu's fierce voice came in from outside the hall. Honorable guest, don't be afraid. With old man here, that mad dog will not dare to come in and bite you. Steward Chung said with a smile, reassuring Qin Hao. At the same time, a thought shrouded the two mysterious crystal mountains to detect the specific number. A few seconds later, Steward Cheng's old eyes widened slightly. 198,765 crystals. Honorable guest, you are so generous. With such a huge number of mysterious crystals, it was more than enough to buy all the blood Ganoderma in the pharmacy. Not only was it more than enough, but the blood Ganoderma was not enough. Why, don't you have enough in stock? Qin Hao heard it. This is indeed not enough. Manager Chung smiled awkwardly. He pulled out a Sumeru pouch from his waist and handed it over to Qin Hao. The total is 30,000 taels of 5,000 caddies. 30,000 caddies of blood Lingji mushrooms are 50 years old, and 1,800 stalks are 100 years old. Then, I'll take them all. The year doesn't matter. Qin Hao said indifferently as he took the Sumeru pouch from the other's hands. As for the extra mysterious crystals, Qin Hao didn't care. In fact, it wasn't much. Including the cost of the Sumeru bag in his hand, neither of them suffered a loss. In fact, Qin Hao even faintly made a small profit. He now had a total of more than 90,000 caddies of blood Lingji in his possession. He had almost reached his goal of purchasing all of them. As he was in a hurry to see Qin Yin, Qin Hao turned around and left. Please wait a moment. Manager Cheng hurriedly opened his arms and stopped Qin Hao. He was surprised by the other party's forthrightness. In the blink of an eye, he had completed a large order of nearly 200,000 mysterious crystals for the pharmacy, which was very impressive. Steward Chung felt like he was in a dream. Sir Steward, what's the matter? Qin Hao looked at the other party and asked, Young man, forgive the old man for being blunt, but there's a mad dog waiting for you outside. What I mean is, why don't you stay here first? I'll ask the servants to prepare some tea. Let's drink tea happily and have a good chat. When it's midnight, you can sneak away. Or you can stay here tonight. You can come down too. This old man's bed is very big and comfortable. Qin Hao was very generous, so Manager Chung wanted to make friends with him. In the future, if Qin Hao wanted to buy other medicinal materials, he could find him directly. Manager Chung could give him a better price. Thank you for your kindness, but I'm not interested in your bed. Goodbye. Qin Hao didn't have the habit of sleeping with the old man, so he boldly stepped out. Immediately, everyone present was stunned. This boy is unteachable. Looking at Qin Hao's back, Manager Chung snorted coldly. He raised his hand and rolled up the two mysterious crystals in front of the counter. Keeping Qin Hao was out of kindness, but he didn't appreciate it. He even despised his bed. Perhaps after leaving, Qin Hao's 30,000 blood Ganoderma would immediately be robbed by Qin Xiao. This was also the common view of everyone. Qin Hao dared to refuse Manager Cheng's kindness. He was indeed unteachable. If I don't sleep with you, I'm unteachable. What kind of logic is that? Qin Hao had sharp ears and eyes. After stepping out of the pharmacy, he heard the cold snort behind him and showed a look of disgust. He knew that the other party kept him here out of kindness. But with Qin Xiao's strength, Qin Hao didn't take him seriously. He didn't even need the old demon to show up. After wearing Dugaji's sacred weapon equipment, no matter how Qin Xiao hit him, he would never be hurt. Qin Hao had the purple meteorite sword, the dragon slash, and the earth upheaval seal. Each one was fiercer than the last. He could smash Qin Xiao into meat paste. In fact, after leaving the pharmacy, Qin Xiao didn't directly make a move. Instead, he took his men and silently followed behind Qin Hao, keeping a distance. They walked 3 streets. Wherever Qin Hao passed, almost everyone avoided him. Qin Xiao, behind him, was basically known by everyone in Tianhua District. He was a villain among villains. With Qin Xiao and a group of people following behind, it was conceivable that this young man would soon become a dead man. We're already far away from the pharmacy. Aren't you tired after following me for so long? There's a tea shop here. Why don't I invite you in for a cup of tea? Qin Hao suddenly stopped and began to emit a murderous aura, but he didn't turn his head to look at Qin Xiao behind him. Bang! As soon as his voice fell, the owner of a tea shop on the left slammed the door shut. Not only the tea shop, but other shops also closed. The people on the road dispersed, and the whole street became empty in the blink of an eye. Brat, how dare you? Die! A loud shout came from behind, accompanied by the sharp sound of a weapon piercing through the air. Qin Xiao himself didn't make a move. The person who made a move was the tiger-faced man beside him. Holding a 3-meter-long giant saber, he jumped high in the air and slashed heavily at the back of Qin Hao's head. This saber was taken from Wu Sanling's back. It was made of good material and was a low-grade sacred weapon. The tiger-faced man poured his essence into the saber, and a layer of orange light covered the saber. With a hu sound, he drew out a chi flame slash that was more than 10 meters long. Before he arrived, the chi flame slash had already landed on Qin Hao's head. The strong wind it brought with it caused the ground to rumble, and the saber chi spread out. You're just a 9th-level mortal saint. Qin Hao looked back and didn't bother to pay attention to him. With a flash of his palm, he took out a white stone. The stone glowed with silver light, and he threw it behind him. This stone was Niu Tong's earth-turning seal, Dan Ji's mid-grade sacred weapon. It could change its size and had amazing lethality. Chapter 559. The group of Prestige Hall's underlings were all stunned, including Qin Xiao himself. They thought that as the tiger-faced man made a move, they could immediately behead people under his sword. They did not expect that Qin Hao would throw out a magic weapon with strong attack power, and the magic weapon he threw out even had a wind blade skill. In a short moment of distraction, more than a dozen underlings were all hit. At this moment, there was a loud howl. The lucky ones had their hands and feet cut off by the wind blade and rolled on the ground. The unfortunate ones were beheaded, and some guys were torn in half. It was extremely bloody. It could be seen how powerful Niu Tong's earth-turning seal was as the chief elder of the sub-hall. On the other side, the earth-turning seal flew out, turned into a rock, and collided with the flame aura of the tiger-faced man. With a loud explosion, the flame aura was smashed into pieces by the earth-turning seal, and smoke billowed. The sword chi was broken, but the earth-turning seal did not stop, and it fiercely smashed on the chest of the tiger-faced man. Suddenly, A heavy pressure penetrated his body. A face-to-face confrontation. Crack. The sound of bones breaking. The tiger-faced man, along with his sword, was crushed to the ground by the earth-turning seal, his limbs stretched out like a toad, and he couldn't be more dead. At this moment, the world was quiet. Actually, after a long time, Qin Xiu reacted from the shock. Of his more than a dozen underlings, only 3 were still breathing, including the tiger-faced man. The rest were all turned into blood and broken limbs. Qin Hao's blow destroyed the entire prestige hall. It didn't matter if others died. The tiger-faced man was Qin Xiu's right-hand man and had made great contributions to him. He once held a watermelon knife and fought with other gangs, cutting down a whole 3 streets of people. Now he was smashed by Qin Hao with a blow and died in such a cowardly way. Boy, I want you to die without a burial place. Qin Xiu suddenly fell into a rage, and he suddenly stepped forward, ready to mobilize his Yuan Qi. At this time, a strand of hair floated in front of his eyes. Then there was a warm feeling on his forehead that was slowly flowing. He reached out and touched it. When he touched it, it was sticky, and he looked down. Blood. Qin Xiu's eyes fell into astonishment again. Although the rain-like wind blades had also enveloped him, he was still able to escape. However, Qin Xiu himself was a peak 9th rank profound sage, only half a step away from stepping into the heavenly sage realm. He clearly blocked all the wind blades. At this moment, Qin Xiu was even angrier. Not only did a young man destroy his entire prestige hall with a single blow, but he also killed Tigerface and even injured Qin Xiu himself. If this got out, Qin Xiu would be too ashamed to live. Humiliation, an enormous humiliation. Brat, if I don't tear you to pieces today, I'll be your son. While speaking, Qin Xiu's right hand clenched into a fist, and a ball of powerful energy flowed through the gaps between his fingers. Obviously, he was preparing to launch the ultimate killing move of the giant collapsing fist. I'm sorry. I've already said that a traitor like you doesn't even deserve to be my grandson. Qin Hao slowly turned around. At this moment, the earth-overturning seal had already returned to his palm. Looking at the miserable scene in front of him, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The earth-overturning seal was indeed strong. It was 100 times stronger than the earth-overturning seal that he had snatched from the old demon of the Black Mountain. At this moment, Qin Hao's eyes turned cold, revealing a trace of solemnity, and his momentum began to rise. Qin Hao had seen the other party's giant collapsing fist in the pharmacy. It was indeed powerful, and if he was hit, he would be seriously injured. As a member of the Qin family, Qin Hao knew this better than anyone else. Moreover, Qin Xiu himself was a peak profound sage, which was 3 levels higher than Qin Hao's cultivation. Master, please be merciful and give me food to eat. Suddenly, an old beggar came out of nowhere. Regardless of the bloody scene in front of him and the stench all over his body, he held a broken bowl and put it under Qin Xiu's nose, acting extremely reckless. F***CK. Qin Xiu's heart was about to explode. His eyes stared like a tiger's, and he slapped the old beggar's face with a backhand. The old beggar flew dozens of meters into the air and smashed into someone's courtyard with a bang. In this regard, Qin Hao's eyebrows suddenly raised. He didn't think that the old beggar was a lunatic. The moment the old beggar appeared, he secretly winked at Qin Hao, as if to say, "Leave quickly." Qin Hao felt a little inexplicable, but it was impossible for him to leave. First of all, Qin Xiu wouldn't let Qin Hao go. Second, Qin Hao wouldn't leave until he killed Qin Xiu. This Qin Xiu was a traitor of the Qin family. Hall Master, the magic treasure in that kid's hand seems to be from the Pill Hall. After being inexplicably disturbed by the beggar, a Prestige Hall member with a broken arm on the ground saw the origin of the earth-overturning seal. After observing it again and again, he hurriedly said with incomparable panic in his eyes, "Pill Hall." Hearing this, Qin Xiu narrowed his eyes and began to look at the earth-overturning seal in Qin Hao's hand. In the next moment, he gritted his teeth. He raised his hand. "Let's go." Qin Xiu dispersed the vitality in his body and strode away. The three Prestige Hall members with broken arms and legs on the ground also supported each other and quickly followed behind Qin Hao, as if they were hiding from a ghost. They kept a respectful distance from Qin Hao. Pill Hall. It was spread throughout the entire western Liang, and its headquarters was located in the imperial city of the Luoshui Empire. Its force was extremely huge, and it was worthy of being the first supergiant in western Liang. With so many people around, even if he hated Qin Hao to the extreme, Qin Xiu didn't dare to kill him in public. If the news spread to other branches in the wasteland, it would inevitably bring disaster to the Prestige Hall. But Qin Xiu would remember this hatred. Moreover, he clearly perceived Qin Hao's cultivation. He was only a 6th-stage profound sage, and he could kill him with a casual punch. Once he found an opportunity and waited in a place where there was no one, Qin Hao would definitely die. You're lucky. Looking at the leaving Qin Xiu, Qin Hao's heart was also filled with hatred. He clearly had the opportunity to kill the traitor of the Qin family, but the other party suddenly left. If it wasn't for the fact that the other party brought the leader of the Prestige Hall here, and Qin Hao was in a hurry to find Qin Yun, he definitely wouldn't have let Qin Xiu leave alive today. Similarly, Qin Hao would also remember this hatred. However, why did the old beggar come out to help him? Could it be that the other party wanted Qin Hao to leave for some reason? Maybe he's just a kind person. Shaking his head, Qin Hao left the Tianhua district and set off for the Qin family's blood pool according to the route provided by the old demon. The blood pool was at the bottom of the Broken Dragon Cliff. It was a bit far, and Qin Hao's seeking Ganoderma was still lacking. So these few days, he could go to the wild to collect some blood Ganoderma. Then, 5 days later, he would meet with the reinforcements brought by Aku. As long as he entered the blood pool, with Qin Hao's ability, he would definitely be able to awaken his soul essence and increase his strength again. As for killing the traitor Qin Xiu, even if Qin Hao didn't make a move, there were still ways to kill him. Tianhua district, in a dilapidated small courtyard. The old beggar climbed out of the collapsed chicken coop. He was hit by Qin Xiu's peak profound sage palm, but there was no injury on his body. Sweeping away the chicken feathers on his head and the chicken dung on his face, he looked toward the southeast with excitement. That direction was the direction Qin Hao had left. Chapter 560. The Broken Dragon Cliff was located 3,000 miles away from the western outskirts of the abandoned city. Rumor had it that the Broken Dragon Cliff was originally a towering peak. One day, a flying dragon fell from the sky with the power to destroy the world and crashed into the giant mountain. In an instant, the mountain collapsed and broke into two from the middle. The flying dragon smashed its skull and fell to the bottom of the valley. Since then, the giant mountain was renamed the Broken Dragon Mountain, and the crack at the bottom of the mountain was called the Broken Dragon Cliff. Of course, this was just a legend. There was no way to verify the details because it was too long ago. It was so long ago that even the old demon, who had lived for 3,000 years, was just a legend to him. The mountains were stacked and the ancient trees were lush. In an extremely primitive forest, countless small beasts wandered around. There were birds resting on the branches. Between the grass on the ground, there were a few blue-eyed, poisonous snakes crawling around from time to time. Looking forward along the forest, there was a mountain not far away. Halfway up the mountain, there was a dark cave. The cave was relatively large. It was 10 meters wide from top to bottom. It looked like the mouth of a ferocious beast. At this time, a 5-meter-long giant eagle flew over from afar. It swept through the forest, its sharp eagle eyes staring at the top of the cave. It seemed to be attracted by some fragrance. It spread its wings and rushed up. Roar, roar, roar. When the giant eagle approached, suddenly, a thick and sharp claw stretched out from the cave. The claw was densely covered with fur. It grabbed the giant eagle's leg and pulled it into the cave. Then, the shrill cry of the eagle came from the cave, accompanied by the sound of a wild beast chewing. Not long after, a wild boar with thick limbs and a pair of tusks slowly walked out of the cave. Its ferocious appearance, round belly, and blood-stained feathers indicated that the giant eagle had been eaten by this 8-meter-tall giant wild boar. It patted its belly in satisfaction and looked at the cave with its huge head. Above the cave, there was a dark red blood Ganoderma. It was the size of a millstone. This blood Ganoderma was at least 100 years old. When the wild boar passed by when it was young, it built a cave halfway up the mountain and waited for the blood Ganoderma to grow. It had been guarding it until today. During this time, the bloodlingji mushroom grew bigger and bigger, and the fragrance it emitted became stronger and stronger, which attracted many other wild beasts. And these wild beasts were all eaten by wild boars. Slowly, the wild boar swallowed a large number of inner cores, and its cultivation grew higher and higher, reaching the level of a saint beast. The eagle that it had just killed was also a saint beast, and its strength was on par with the wild boar. Unfortunately, the giant eagle was distracted by the bloodlingji mushroom and was suddenly attacked by the wild boar. It was dragged into the cave and restricted from flying. In the blink of an eye, he became the wild boar's meal. One had to admit that the wild boar was very smart. The wild boar burped. Although it was already full, when it looked at the bloodlingji mushroom, a large amount of saliva still dripped from the corner of its mouth. It had been guarding this bloodlingji for 100 years, and it couldn't wait any longer. It had just finished devouring the giant eagle's saint beast inner core. If it ate the bloodlingji now, it would be able to break through from an ordinary saint beast to a saint beast. Roar! A human-like smile appeared on the wild boar's face. Even it felt that it was smart to encounter all kinds of good things. At this moment, it impatiently climbed up the mountain wall, its round body crawling towards the blood Ganoderma above. Whoosh! A sharp cry came from the sky in the distance, carrying a monstrous aura as it rushed towards the bloodlingji mushroom at an extremely fast speed. From the sound of the cry, it was enough to judge how powerful the attacker was. Roar! The wild boar let out an angry roar. The aura that rushed over was very sharp, and it made the wild boar feel a strong sense of danger. It waved its steel claws and turned around to face the enemy. However, before it could turn its head, a sword light flashed. An orange sword light flew from 100 meters away and pierced through the wild boar's heart without any hindrance. The wild boar's body stiffened and its claws loosened. Its huge body slid down the mountain wall. Boom! It smashed a huge hole in the ground. At that moment, a fist-sized hole appeared on the wall. The hole ran through the entire mountain. From this, it could be seen how powerful his opponent's sword strike was. Just this one left. Qin Hao put away the purple meteorite sword. The origin wings on his back flickered, and he floated above the bloodlingji mushroom. He smiled and raised his hands in front of him. Rise! Crack! Under the shroud of origin energy, the mountain wall cracked open, and the bloodlingji mushroom was slowly pulled out. Then, Qin Hao kept it in his space ring. 100-year-old herb was very spiritual, and one had to be very careful when digging it out. As a Dendi, Qin Hao had always treasured herbs. Therefore, he first cracked the mountain wall. This way, the bloodlingji mushroom could be pulled out in one piece by Wuk. If he used force, the roots of the bloodlingji mushroom would be damaged. Looking at the corpse of the wild boar below, Qin Hao dispersed his origin wings and landed on the ground. He pointed with his right hand, and a beam of light easily pierced through the belly of the wild boar. Suddenly, a white pearl flew out and was caught in Qin Hao's palm. Brother dog, this inner core is yours. Qin Hao threw the sacred beast inner core of the wild boar into his space ring. Then, the dog spirit's excited howls could be heard from the ring. This wild boar was not as powerful as the dog spirit, and there was not much effect after swallowing it. However, the dog spirit never despised it. There's another one. Qin Hao noticed that there was a wave of spiritual energy coming out from the wild boar's stomach. It had just eaten the giant eagle's inner core and had not had the time to refine it. The wild boar was originally going to eat the bloodlingji mushroom and break through to the next level. Now, it was all given to Qin Hao. Therefore, Qin Hao pointed again and broke open the chest of the wild boar. He took the giant eagle's inner core and threw it into the space ring as well. This time, the dog spirit was even more excited. It was pleasantly surprised. It had swallowed hundreds of thousands of inner cores from Western Fair City. Along the way, it had killed many sacred beasts that Qin Hao had killed. Today, after consuming the sacred beast cores of the wild boar and giant eagle, it had a 90% chance of successfully advancing to the heavenly saint level. I'm sorry, brother. I took the Lingji mushroom that you were guarding and dug out your inner core. Moreover, you gave me one as a gift. What a good pig. Qin Hao bowed to the wild boar. It was not easy for this pig to cultivate to the level of sacred beast. Its defensive power was extremely strong. Unfortunately, the gap between its cultivation and Qin Hao's was too big. Moreover, Qin Hao had the purple meteorite sword in his hand and performed the graceful sword move. There was no suspense in killing it with one move. The pig is a good pig, but you're not bad either. In the past 2 days, you've dug up nearly 10,000 kilograms of blood Lingji mushroom in the mountains. Each of them is a 100-year-old blood Lingji mushroom. You've also killed more than a dozen sacred beasts. Today, the blood Lingji mushroom and the sacred beast cores are all mine. While he was stunned, a cold voice sounded behind him, revealing a strong killing intent. Qin Hao turned his head. Qin Xiu. Yes, it's me, your father. How about it? Are you surprised? Qin Xiu smiled, gritting his teeth and clenching his fists. Sorry, it's not surprising at all. In this regard, Qin Hao shrugged his shoulders and curled his lips. Chapter 561. After his cultivation reached the saint level, his mind could cover a very wide range. Qin Hao's movements outside the Tianhua district were naturally under Qin Xiu's control. In the past 2 days, Qin Hao didn't walk very fast because he was digging the blood Lingji mushroom, so Qin Xiu followed him closely. If Qin Hao flew with all his strength, it would be easy for him to get rid of him, even if Qin Xiu's cultivation was 3 levels higher than his. The reason why he didn't get rid of him was that he wanted to kill this traitor of the Qin family. Qin Xiu came alone to chase Qin Hao without any helpers. He was really bold. In his opinion, it would be easy for him to kill Qin Hao. There's one thing that makes me very curious. What method did you use to find so many blood Lingji mushrooms in the mountains so accurately? Qin Xiu wasn't in a hurry to make a move. In the past 2 days, he saw clearly that Qin Hao had dug nearly 5,000 caddies of blood Lingji mushrooms, each of which was 100 years old. This ability was not simple. Otherwise, the value of the blood Lingji mushrooms had also dropped. In fact, unless hundreds of people were mobilized to work day and night for a month, they might not be able to find the blood Lingji mushrooms as fast as Qin Hao. Sorry, for a dead man, you don't have the ability to know. Qin Hao stared coldly at the other party. Dinda's sense of smell for herbs was very sharp, far beyond that of others. Even the ability of a king-level alchemist to find herbs was probably not half as good as Qin Hao. Because Qin Hao's mind power was at the emperor level, the range of his mind covered was larger and more accurate. How arrogant. You want to kill me? Qin Xiu was once again despised by Qin Hao, and his anger instantly rose. He clenched his fists and energy circled around his body, ready to launch the collapsing fist. Killing you is very simple, but I have a question. Your surname is Qin. Are you a member of the Qin family or a servant? Qin Hao knew that if some servants made great contributions, they would be given the surname of their family by some big families. This was a very honorable thing for servants. I'll say it again. My surname is not Qin. My surname is Dugu. Back then, that old bastard Qin Outsong wanted to rope me in because of my extraordinary talent. So, he gave me the surname Qin, and I will be grateful to him. I'll laugh my head off. Man walks to higher places, and water flows to lower places. What is it? Qin Xiu raised his head and laughed. He even remembered his surname, Qin's surname. This was because he had jumped from one family to another and had jumped from 5 to 6 families. His surname was Ma, Liu, and Zhang, and the Qin family was the fourth family he had attached himself to. Back then, old Master Qin saw that he was smart and had some aptitude and ability, so he kept him by his side to nurture him. Now, Qin Xiu claimed that his surname was Dugu, which meant that he had changed his allegiance 5 times. Since you're about to be killed by me, I might as well tell you a little secret. In fact, the letter that tricked the Qin family was sent by me to Qin Aocang. But that old man actually believed it. Haha, he took all the masters of the Qin family to the blood abyss. Qin Xiu was an animal to the extreme. He was the one who personally sent the letter of the 3 big families to the Qin family's old master. The old master of the Qin family, Qin Aocang, had always regarded Qin Xiu as his own family, so he believed it without a doubt. After being tricked, Qin Xiu personally led the killers of the 3 big families to kill the children and women of the Qin family. He was utterly heartless. This was the secret in his heart. He had suppressed it for a long time and had never told anyone. He had made great contributions to the 3 big families and thought that he would be valued and promoted. However, both the Shiman family and Huangpu family despised him. Qin Xiu betrayed the Qin family and would also betray the Shiman family and Huangpu family one day. Whoever he followed would have to die. Only the people of the Dugu family gave him the surname Dugu, but it was just a surname and tens of thousands of useless, mysterious crystals. However, they didn't take Qin Xiu back to the Dugu state to enjoy life. Slave of the 5 surnames, the old master of the Qin family clenched his fists, and a trace of blood flashed in his eyes. It seemed that Qin Xiu was not a member of the Qin family at all, but an outsider. The old master of the Qin family had not only given him the surname Qin, but also taught him the unique skill of the Qin family, the giant collapsing fist. You must be laughing at the old master's stupidity by telling me this secret. But let me tell you, he's not stupid. Those who can be deceived by you are all people who believe in you. Also, I hate traitors the most in my life. Die. With a roar, Qin Hao stepped on the water wind steps and moved as fast as lightning. He clenched his right fist and punched at Qin Xiu's head. This was the first time since his rebirth that Qin Hao chose to take the initiative to attack. Usually, Qin Hao wouldn't kill people directly if they weren't arrogant to the extreme. But this time, Qin Xiu provoked Qin Hao's bottom line and touched his reverse scale. Traitors must not be left alive. For example, Han Lingxian and Zhan Wu. How dare you use fist techniques in front of me? Giant collapsing fist. Qin Xiu was also provoked by Qin Hao's words, especially the phrase slave of the 5 surnames, which made him feel ashamed. As soon as he moved, a gust of wind suddenly rose, and his fist was wrapped in orange light, shaking the air and making a buzzing sound. He swung it forward like a heavy mountain. The energy on this fist was in the shape of a vortex, like a drill. This was the power of the Qin family's giant collapsing fist. After being punched into the body, the bones and meridians of the body would immediately be shattered, and the person would be disabled. Those who were not strong enough would even be torn apart by this punch. Boom! At this moment, the 2 fists collided, and the ground exploded into a cloud of dust. There were cracks spreading to the soles of their feet. A layer of aftermath buzzed and spread, uprooting the surrounding trees. The momentum was terrifying to the extreme. Bang! 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 Qin Hao was hit by this punch and took 3 steps back. He suddenly stepped on the ground and stopped his retreat. There was a slight pain in his fist. Although the blood in his abdomen was surging, he was not injured. Qin Xiu was even more miserable. He was not retreating at all, but his toes were stuck to the ground and his body slid backward. He couldn't stop and slid more than 10 meters away. With a bang, his back broke a big tree, and he barely stopped. How was this possible? He was shocked and looked at his fist. The skin on his fist was cracked and blood was gurgling. His whole arm was numb and trembling. He felt that what he had hit was not a person, but a solid steel plate. Then, Qin Hao's fist force attacked, shaking the force on the colossal collapsing fist until it vanished into thin air. He was 3 levels higher than Qin Hao in cultivation, and he was still using his best fist technique. As a result, he was at a disadvantage. What you just used is actually the Qin family's giant collapsing fist. Qin Xiu stared at Qin Hao in disbelief, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. Chapter 562. Originally, you weren't qualified to know my identity, but now I can tell you that my surname is Qin Hao, and I'm Qin Yun's cousin. Hundreds of thousands of kilometers southwest of the Luo Shui Empire, there's a tiny Jiang country. In the heavens wall city of Jiang country, there's a branch of the Qin people living there. This is something that no one would have thought of. Qin Hao dispersed his fist energy and stood with his hands behind his back. Although his soul was reborn, the owner of this body had cultivated the minute-collapsing fist since childhood. Moreover, because Qin Hao was a waste, his realm couldn't go up, but his basic fist technique could be said to have been cultivated to the extreme. In addition, Qin Hao cultivated the art of endless samsara, and his body was incomparably tyrannical. In terms of strength alone, he was several times stronger than his peers. Not to mention the strength of his vitality increased by the Dragon Whirlpool technique. Even if his cultivation was 3 stages lower than Qin Hao's, even if he only used the basic fist technique of the minute-collapsing fist, Qin Hao was still able to beat Qin Xiu like a wolf dog. So that's how it is, huh? Qin Xiu suddenly laughed wildly, and there was no longer any fear in his eyes. He didn't even put the Qin family in his eyes, so how could he be afraid of a small branch of Qin Hao's family? I really should thank you. Originally, I thought that I could only be a small hall master in my life, and there was no chance for me to be promoted and get rich. But now, the opportunity has come. After killing you, I'll take your dog head to the 3 great families to receive a reward. Then, I'll bring the experts of the 3 great families to kill your branch and capture all your family members. Throw all your relatives into the Blood-Soul Great Array and refine them. This way, the Blood-Soul Great Array will be broken, and I can bring the people of the 3 great families in to awaken their origin souls. Ha ha! Kid, go to hell. Qin Xiu was extremely vicious. It wasn't enough to kill the Qin family, but he also wanted to bring the 3 great families thousands of miles away to kill Qin Hao's family. At this moment, he jumped up, and the vitality of a peak profound sage erupted to the extreme. His whole body bounced into the air and fell toward where Qin Hao was standing, and he fiercely punched out. The 5th style of the giant collapsing fist. Heaven and earth shattering. He unleashed his greatest killing move. Originally, the Qin family's colossal collapsing fist had a total of 9 forms. Unfortunately, Qin Xiu had only cultivated up to the 5th form, which was already his strongest attack. Like a human cannonball, he shot towards Qin Hao's head. His fist transformed into a 5-meter-long giant fist. He had once killed someone of the same level with this fist. Therefore, this punch was enough to turn Qin Hao, who was 3 stages weaker, into minced meat. Slave of 5 surnames. Qin Hao snorted disdainfully. With a flash of his hand, he took out the rusty dragon-slaying sword and swung it above his head. Wong. A flame spurted out from the sword into the sky. The heat increased wildly, and the flame seemed to have turned into a flaming blade. This move was also Qin Hao's killer move, the Red Lotus Flaming Blade. It had once cut off the old man Guihai's arm. Swish! This sword shattered Qin Xiu's 5-meter-long fist shadow. At the same time, the flame of the flaming blade also disappeared. However, the sword light of the dragon-slaying sword did not diminish. It cut into Qin Xiu's head and tore his legs apart. His whole body was cut in half. Whoosh! Blood poured out like a basin, splashing Qin Hao's head and face. Although the functions of the dragon-slaying sword had not been developed, the material of this sword was very strong. Qin Hao judged that it was definitely above the purple meteorite sword. However, he could not tell its true level at present. It was very likely that it had been sealed by the old man. Trash scum! Looking at Qin Xiu's body on the ground, Qin Hao wiped the blood on his face, raised his head, and sighed. My distant relatives who have sacrificed themselves, rest in peace. Wong. The dragon-slaying sword made a heavy, buzzing sound, as if countless heroes of the Qin family were responding to Qin Hao, as if they were saying, "Good kill. Ha ha. Good kill. Wonderful kill. Kill until the croaking of the croaking." Suddenly, a glib-tongued voice was heard. Qin Hao was stunned. There were others present? Moreover, Qin Hao did not notice. The strength of a newcomer must be above Qin Hao, so he could hide his aura. The next second, Qin Hao hurriedly took out a few Grand Yuan pills and swallowed them. The sword just now consumed 80% of his vitality. He looked up at the approaching figure. On the opposite side, there were two figures. Qin Hao knew one of them. It was the yellow-haired, middle-aged man of the Broken Wave Gang, Big Dog Lee. However, the person next to Big Dog Lee was wearing a black robe, and his face was covered. He was extremely tall, 2 fists taller than Qin Hao, who was 8 meters tall. Moreover, Qin Hao could not see this person's cultivation. It must be him who hid his aura, as well as Big Dog Lee's aura. "Master, the guy in the black robe is very strong. I can't see through him. We can't fight him head-on. We must find a way to escape immediately." At this moment, the old demon's voice was also heard, and it sounded anxious and flustered. The old demon had a feeling that even if the dog spirit was included, Qin Hao and the old demon would not be a match for the black-robed man. This person's cultivation was definitely above that of the Broken Wave Gang's first elder. He would not be weaker than Duantian Cliff, or even stronger. This meant that this person's cultivation was at the peak of the 8th level Monarch realm. To put it bluntly, a casual breath from him was enough to turn Qin Hao, a mere profound sage, into ashes a few hundred times. Roar! The dog spirit also let out a few roars of warning. What? Even you can't see through his cultivation? Qin Hao could not help but look bitter. He was afraid that he had kicked a tough nut this time. The old demon was a 2-star Yuan monarch, but he still could not see through the black-robed man's cultivation. What's the matter? Although Qin Hao knew that this person did not come with good intentions, he did not show any panic on his face. In fact, even if he panicked, the other party would not be able to see that Qin Hao's face was now covered in blood, which made him look very scary. Oh, there's a small matter." The yellow-haired, middle-aged man smiled and pointed at the black-robed man beside him. "Come, let me introduce you. This man beside me is the #1 king of killers in the wasteland. People have given him the nickname Life-Extinguishing Firepalm. May I know why Your Excellency Firepalm is looking for me?" Qin Hao secretly circulated his essence and poured all of it into his legs, preparing to use the water-wind steps to escape. At this moment, the gravel beside his shoes was floating. "I want to borrow your head." The black-robed man spoke. His voice was very deep and magnetic. It was irresistible. "Your Excellency Fire Palm, I don't have any enmity with you, right?" Qin Hao squinted his eyes slightly. "What enmity? Why are you treating me like an outsider? People like you have no value in living. I am prepared to take your life and claim credit from the Huangpu Huichun Grand Elder. To put it bluntly, I want to be promoted and get rich. Do you understand now?" The yellow-haired, middle-aged man smiled. "I understand." Qin Hao took a step back. "Ha, that's great. You are very sensible. I can give you a chance to kill yourself now. I have to say that I heard the conversation between you and that trash Qin Xiao. I did not expect your true identity to be a member of the Qin family. I have decided to kill you. After that, I will go to the Jiang Nation and kill your entire family. Then I, Big Dog Lee, will soar in the wasteland. From then on, I will get whatever I want." Ha. Big Dog Lee put his hands on his waist and laughed maniacally. Bang! A ferocious palm attack came. It was accompanied by surging fire energy. It hit Big Dog Lee's face and sent him flying. Chapter 563. Originally, he came to kill Qin Hao purely to avenge Huangpu Daqi and claim credit from Huangpu Huichun. He never expected that Qin Hao was a remnant of the Qin family, and there was a branch behind him. For Flaming Hand, this was undoubtedly a big surprise. How could he bear to share it with Big Dog Lee? He had to take it all for himself. Boy, you're very good. A 6th-stage profound sage killed a 9th-stage profound sage. I don't know if it's because Qin Xiu is too useless, or because the sword in your hand is too powerful. But no matter what, you have no chance of escaping in front of me. Surrender obediently, and I can let you live for 2 more days. Flaming Hand said in a deep voice. Qin Hao was a remnant of the Qin family, and his blood was the key to opening the Blood-Soul Great Array. Therefore, Flaming Hand only wanted to cripple Qin Hao, and in the end, Qin Hao still couldn't escape death. This person's fire art is so insidious. Qin Hao looked at Big Dog Li, who fell to the ground. His face was hit by the fire palm, and before he could scream, his head was swallowed by the flames. Now, his whole body was burned into a pool of smoking black residue. It was enough to see how ruthless Flaming Hand's technique was. Inexplicably, Qin Hao seemed to have a trace of familiarity with Flaming Hand's flames. My fire art is unparalleled in the wasteland. I heard that a few days ago, you helped Great Elder Liphone of the Broken Wave Gang resolve his old wounds, right? That old man is really lucky. Flaming Hand stood with his hands behind his back, exuding unparalleled confidence. The implication was that he was the one who injured Great Elder Liphone. Squeak! Qin Hao clenched his fists again, and his heartstrings were stretched taut. This person's cultivation was indeed above Great Elder Liphong's. It seemed that it would be difficult to escape today. Master, use the essence blood in the demon refining pot, and then I'll hold him back. You run away immediately. Don't worry about me. Old Demon urged. After devouring the essence blood of 3 million souls in the demon refining pot, the old demon's cultivation would quickly increase in a short time. This was Qin Hao's powerful trump card, and he would never waste it unless it was a last resort. And now, they had reached the point where they had no other choice. Brat, don't force me to make a move. Once I make a move, you'll definitely die. Cripple your own cultivation now, and let me deal with you as I see fit. The raging Flame Hand shouted and took a step toward Qin Hao. His aura surged toward Qin Hao. My life is in my own hands, not in the hands of the heavens, much less you. You want me to surrender without putting up a fight? In your dreams. Qin Hao clenched his fists, raised his head, and roared. Rumble. Yuan Qi raged around his body as smoke and dust rose from his feet. This smoke and dust turned into a crazy sandstorm that rolled towards the blazing hand. Qin Hao seized this opportunity to unfold his origin wings and shoot towards the horizon, and his figure transformed into a wisp of flowing light that flew horizontally as he circulated the Dragon Vortex technique to the limit. It was not that Qin Hao was stingy and did not use the blood essence in the demon purification pot, but he could not tell if the old demon was strong enough to block the fiery hand after swallowing the blood essence. If he couldn't win, the old demon would definitely die. Qin Hao didn't want to see the old demon die. You overestimate yourself. As soon as Qin Hao fled, the fiery hand was enraged and felt that he had been provoked. He lifted his loose robe, and a ball of raging flames swept out. After the flame left his hand, it expanded and burned more fiercely. There was a loud rumble. It pierced through the sandstorm that Qin Hao swept out. Then, this flame flew into the sky in an arc, turning into a red glow that burned through the sky and pierced towards Qin Hao in the air like a sharp arrow. Even if Qin Hao had many techniques, the gap between the two was too big. It would only take a few breaths for the fire to catch up to him. Master, you've been reborn, but you're still not ruthless enough. The old demon sighed, but his tone was extremely moved. The contract between him and Qin Hao was the lowest level of master-slave contract. If it were anyone else, they would have abandoned the old monster without hesitation and fled on their own. But Qin Hao didn't do that. The old demon wouldn't let Qin Hao die. Once Qin Hao died, the old demon would lose the source that kept his soul from dying, and he would also die. So, Qin Hao couldn't sacrifice himself for nothing. At this moment, the old demon broke his hand and came out of the interspatial ring without permission, along with the devil refining gourd. Since they had signed the contract, the old demon had to complete his mission. Even if he was now a broken blood emperor, he still had his own pride. You're just a little brat. How dare you jump around in front of me? Have a taste of my power. The old demon let out a hoarse and shrill cry. He was about to open the devil-refining gourd and devour the essence blood inside. Old demon. When Qin Hao heard the other party's voice, he subconsciously stopped flying and turned his head to look. A cloud of blood was suspended in mid-air, blocking the path of the raging fire. It gave off a tragic aura. Boom! Then, there was an explosion that shook the void. The fierce fire from the flaming hand blasted in front of the ball of blood. At this moment, the entire sky was shaking violently, and smoke scattered everywhere. Miraculously, after the explosion, the old demon's aura didn't dissipate. As a gust of wind blew through the sky and blew away the billowing black smoke, an old beggar in ragged clothes appeared. He floated in the air and stretched out a palm in front of the old demon. There was still black smoke coming out of his palm. Obviously, the fierce fire from the flaming hand was blocked by the old beggar with one hand. And this hand was not injured at all, except for being a little black from the explosion. How is this possible? Below, the flaming hand was shocked. Qin Hao and the old demon were also shocked. They looked at the old beggar and said in unison, "Old beggar." This person was the beggar who suddenly appeared 2 days ago when Qin Hao and Qin Xiu were confronting each other on the streets of Tianhua district. The beggar even put a broken bowl under Qin Xiu's nose, but it was slapped away by Qin Xiu. Qin Hao thought that the beggar had been beaten to death. Now, not only was he not dead, but he was also alive and well. At this moment, the old beggar's body was emitting a red aura that was extremely strong. A high-level Yuan Monarch, the old demon said in a daze. He was about to open the medicine refining pot and devour 3 million drops of blood to die together with the flaming hand. But in the end, he escaped death. The old beggar, turned his head and smiled at Qin Hao, revealing a mouthful of big yellow teeth. "Kid, wait a moment. I will explain to you after I deal with the bastards below." "Okay." Qin Hao nodded. Although he didn't know why the other party saved him and didn't know the old beggar's identity, Qin Hao felt very close to him from the other party's aura. "Friend, where are you from? Why are you my enemy?" At this moment, the flaming hand floated up and flapped a pair of huge bright red wings behind him. He faced the old beggar in the air. "What does it have to do with you? As for why I am your enemy, if I want to be your enemy, I will be your enemy. I am so unreasonable. What can you do?" The old beggar was not afraid in the face of the flaming hand's tyrannical aura. He replied very shamelessly, "Friend, I am the king of killers in the wasteland, the Flaming Hand. You should have heard of my name." The Flaming Hand was actually very angry. All along, anyone who saw him had to be respectful and reverent. When Huangpu Huichun paid him a huge sum of money to attack Great Elder Lai Feng, his attitude was very humble. No one had ever dared to behave atrociously in front of him like the old beggar. Of course, the other party had the right to behave atrociously. The Flaming Hand could sense that the old beggar's cultivation was not low. It should be similar to his. Therefore, he didn't want to fight to the death with the old beggar. That would not benefit anyone. "Please give me face and step aside a little. I will definitely thank you." The Flaming Hand continued. "I thank your sister. I thank your mother. Okay? I thank your grandfather. Okay? I thank your grandfather's grandfather. Okay? I thank your 18 generations of ancestors. Okay? If you want to fight, then fight. Why are you talking so much nonsense? If you don't want to fight, then die as far as you can. Get out of here immediately." The old beggar pointed at the nose of the Flaming Hand and said. This torrent of abuse simply made Qin Hao submit. In a trance, this scene gave Qin Hao a sense of déjà vu. The old beggar's ability to scold people was not weaker than the Melon Brother. In addition, there seemed to be another person in his impression who had such a glib tongue. Could it be that he is? Qin Hao thought of Qin Yun. In his impression, Qin Yun was a long-tongued woman. However, the old beggar's image and Qin Yun's handsome appearance were too far apart. Qin Hao shook his head and denied this guess. Ha ha! Good scolding. I deeply admire your excellency. The old demon laughed heartily and expressed his respect. After all, the old beggar had just saved his life. You son of a bitch! I will destroy you. The flaming hand was so angry that he spat out a fountain of blood. Since he had been scolded, there was no room for reconciliation. In the next second, he fiercely attacked. You are simply bullying me. 3 suns rising. The flaming hand stretched out his arms and raised them above his head. Wong, wong, wong. 3 fireballs wrapped in flames were condensed, as if 3 suns were rotating above his head. Each of them was 10 meters in size, and their power was astonishing. Senior, this person's fire attack is very fierce. Be careful. Qin Hao spoke in time. The flaming hand's fire attack was very special. He was afraid that he had the ability to kill enemies above his level. The old beggar's cultivation was similar to the other party. Qin Hao was afraid that the old beggar would be at a disadvantage. Senior? You call me senior? Ha ha! The old beggar did not put the flaming hand's 3 suns rising in his eyes. Instead, he was amused by Qin Hao's words and felt that he had a lot of face. Facing my 3 suns rising, you actually have the time to laugh. I will let you die. Go! Being despised by the old beggar again, the flaming hand was simply going crazy. He waved his arms forward. Boom! 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 3 2-meter-big fireballs above his head smashed down one after another. There's a reason why I despise you. What is the reason? I will let you see it immediately. In this regard, the old beggar said with a relaxed face. As the powerful fireballs flew over, the old beggar stretched out his hand. Dang! 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 3 fireballs were flicked in front of him. Bang! 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 These 3 huge fireballs exploded one after another. After the explosion, the flames that sprayed everywhere did not hurt the old beggar at all. Instead, they were controlled by an inexplicable force and rebounded towards the flaming hand. This scene shocked everyone to the point that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. It also scared the blazing hand to the point that he dodged in a sorry state. He knew better than anyone how fierce his fire poison was. Even he was afraid, but he could not hurt the old beggar at all. Chapter 564. He was not stupid. The previous attack was enough to determine the strength of the opponent. Flaming Hand was a level 8 Yuan Monarch. Even though he did not use his full strength, the old beggar had easily neutralized his attack with 3 flicks of his fingers. The old beggar's combat power was obviously above his, and was most likely a peak Yuan Monarch. In fact, Flaming Hand did not care if the old beggar nodded or not. He flapped his wings and fled far away. His speed was terrifying. You want to escape now? It's too late. The old beggar narrowed his eyes and shot forward. A pair of wings that were wider than Flaming Hand's unfolded behind him, illuminating half the sky. Qin Hao's identity had been exposed. The old beggar would not allow Flaming Hand to escape. Otherwise, the branch of the Jiang Nation's Qin family would be destroyed. Swoosh! An ear-piercing sound could be heard as the old beggar caught up with Flaming Hand in the blink of an eye. The aura he emitted made Flaming Hand break out in cold sweat. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Take my ultimate move. Since he could not escape, he would fight to the death. Flaming Hand's speed suddenly stopped. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and turned around to send out a violent flame shockwave. This shockwave was extremely turbulent and hot, like an erupting volcano. The sky immediately turned into a sea of fire, catching everyone off guard. Flame domain, flaming dragon whirling sky. Flaming Hand roared as he swung his arms. Roar! The rolling sea of fire was elongated and transformed into a 100-meter-long flaming dragon. Its thick body swallowed the old beggar, too weak to stand up to the wind. The old beggar roared like a clap of thunder in a clear sky. Facing the raging Flame Hand, he brazenly faced it head-on. He stretched out his big hand and pressed it on the fire dragon's head. Under his palm, an unparalleled force suppressed the fire dragon, forcing it back. How is this possible? Flaming Hand was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out. His mouth was agape as he looked at the scene in disbelief. Swallow it. At this moment, the old beggar pressed down on the flaming dragon and slapped Flaming Hand's face. Boom! There was a violent explosion in the sky. The aftermath spread and caused hundreds of mountains below to collapse. In the raging flames, the old beggar and the fire-cracking hand both drilled out and fell down together. The difference was that Flaming Hand screamed miserably while the old beggar's hand was still on his face. He had been forced down by the old beggar and was completely helpless. The old beggar pressed the raging flame hand on the ground, and the earth cracked. However, the old beggar, a level 8 Yuan Monarch, was extraordinary. He was much stronger than the raging fire hand. Swoosh! Qin Hao and the old demon chased over and landed beside the old beggar before dispersing their Yuan origin wings. He died just like that. The old demon said in a daze as he looked at the tragic corpse. The flaming hand was very arrogant just now. Qin Hao and the old demon had no way to deal with him. Qin Hao frowned. He looked at the old beggar, but couldn't see through him. Based on his intuition, the old beggar and the flaming hand's cultivation levels should be similar. However, in terms of combat power, they couldn't be compared at all. The old beggar could completely crush the flaming hand. He wondered what kind of supreme technique the old beggar relied on to be able to erupt with such terrifying combat power. Qin Hao roughly estimated that he would have to pay an extremely heavy price to defeat the old beggar if he advanced to the level 8 Yuan Monarch level. This made Qin Hao even more curious about the old beggar's supreme technique. Who are you? Why are you helping me? Qin Hao asked. After 3 days, I have to look at you with new eyes. I didn't expect you to reach the level 6 profound sage level after 3 years. This has greatly exceeded my expectations. You must have suffered a lot after coming out of that small, trashy country, right? The old beggar exhaled deeply. To be exact, it had been more than 4 years since the first time his mirror image clone had seen Qin Hao. He turned around and looked at Qin Hao solemnly. Qin Yun. Qin Yun? Qin Hao was stunned. He couldn't believe his eyes. Although he had guessed it, he had seen Qin Yun's avatar before. It was an extremely handsome and elegant youth. Qin Hao was once envious of his handsome appearance. But now, Qin Hao was unable to associate this skinny old beggar with messy hair and a mouthful of yellow teeth with Qin Yun, who was dressed in luxurious clothes and had an extraordinary bearing. Master, he changed his appearance. It's a very high-end disguise technique. At this time, the old demon, who had turned into a mass of blood floating next to Qin Hao, reminded him. They had been very nervous just now and had been paying close attention to the battle. The old demon had also just noticed it. Yes, Qin Yun nodded and smiled. Standing in front of Qin Hao, he put his hands on his waist and twisted, making cracking sounds. His bent waist gradually straightened, his muscles gradually bulged, and his height began to rise. His figure also gradually became stylish. Then, Qin Yun grabbed Mao Chao's hair and face and pulled. Qila, a handsome face was immediately revealed, with long black hair draped over his shoulders. Then he took out a clean and graceful robe and put it on. The dirty beggar immediately turned into a peerlessly handsome young man. Then he grinned at Qin Hao, revealing a mouthful of big yellow teeth, which was incompatible with his current appearance. Qin Yun. Qin Hao looked at Qin Yun, who had magically returned to his original body. Although his appearance had changed and seemed to be more mature, Qin Hao still recognized him at a glance. It was Qin Yun, who had crawled out of the unpolished jade, the long-tongued woman who had moistened her throat with saliva. Qin Yun, return my father, return my mother. Seeing his family, Qin Hao was not moved. Instead, his eyes were red. He took a step forward and grabbed Qin Yun's neck, lifting him up and roaring while gritting his teeth. Cough, cough, cough. I'm sorry, I didn't protect Uncle Ding Tian and Aunt Tang Rome. Qin Hao's palm strength was very strong. Without resisting, Qin Yun would definitely not be able to endure it. His cheeks immediately turned red, and he was about to suffocate. Master, let go. Quickly let go. You will choke him to death. The old demon hurriedly advised. If not for the fact that your surname is Qin, even if I am not your match, I will definitely fight you to the death. Qin Hao suppressed the anger in his heart and threw Qin Yun to the ground. If you want to kill me, I will not resist. In response, Qin Yun lowered his head and sat on the ground. He had indeed let Qin Hao down. He did not dare to face this distant cousin of his. He did not fulfill his promise to take care of Qin Hao's parents. Instead, he had implicated them. Qin Yun felt very guilty in his heart. Fortunately, my father and mother can still be saved. I will return this to you. Qin Hao's palm flashed as he took out the unpolished jade and threw it to Qin Yun. Then, he heaved a sigh of relief. In fact, Qin Yun should not be blamed. If not for Qin Yun's rescue, his father and mother would have died in the assassination of the Zhuang and Zhou families. Brother Hao, I will save Uncle Ding Tian and Aunt Tang Rong, as well as my father and mother who are trapped in the blood abyss. I will also save my grandfather. Please believe me. Qin Yun raised his head and pleaded for Qin Hao's forgiveness. I don't want to be entangled with you on this matter. Saving people is not your own matter. When a main family is in trouble, we, the branch family, should help. Now that we have gathered the bloodlingji, what should we do next? Qin Hao took out the sumaru pouch and threw it to Qin Yun again. The pouch contained 100,000 jin, no more and no less. Qin Yun took the sumaru pouch and stood up. His heart was filled with bitterness. In fact, he did not know when Qin Hao would arrive at the wasteland. He also did not know what Qin Hao would look like after he arrived. Therefore, the plan to purchase the bloodlingji was engraved in the unpolished jade by Qin Yun 3 years ago. He would wait in the Qin prefecture, waiting for someone to purchase large amounts of bloodlingji. Only this clumsy method would allow him to recognize Qin Hao. Let's go to the blood pool. Qin Yun raised his head and said, let's go to the blood pool to awaken your origin spirit. Your current strength is still too weak. The experts of the 3 great families are like clouds. The 3 patriarchs are all paragon experts. Qin Yun then told him the important information. For some unknown reason, the movements of the 3 great families have been very strange recently. Not only did they withdraw the troops guarding the blood pool, the 3 patriarchs along with the 3 grand elders, the Dugu family's great elder and the Shiman family's great elder all left the wasteland and headed to the Northern Border Spirit Array Guild headquarters. So now is a good opportunity. The 3 great families' peak experts were currently empty. Only by taking advantage of this opportunity could Qin Hao enter the blood pool and awaken his origin spirit. Qin Hao could not help being startled. The experts of the 3 great families had all left. Moreover, they had withdrawn the troops guarding the blood pool. Could it be that his words of fooling Shiman Daqing had taken effect? Qin Hao had told Shiman Daqing that Qin Yun was already dead. It must be because of this reason that the 3 great families could not sit still. Therefore, they went to the Northern Border Spirit Array Guild headquarters and asked the headquarters president to research a method to break the Blood Soul Array. This opportunity could not be missed. It would not come again. Good. Qin Hao nodded. Awakening his origin spirit was the most important thing for him to increase his cultivation. Take this. After discussing, Qin Hao took out a jade bangle and handed it to Qin Hao solemnly. However, there was only half of this jade bangle. This is... Qin Hao was stunned. Wasn't this the jade bangle that Xiaolei had given him? It was exactly the same. This is the sacred dragon bangle of the great Qing dynasty. It will bring great benefits to you. After entering the blood pool, it will increase the grade of your awakened origin spirit. It's a pity that there is only half of it left. Qin Yun sighed regretfully. It was not because his martial arts talent was heaven-defying that he was able to achieve such a high level of cultivation. It was because he had brought this half of the sacred dragon bangle with him when he awakened his origin spirit. His cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. Not only had he become a Sky Sage elite, but he had also become a level 8 Yuan Monarch. He was a Yuan Monarch that was far stronger than ordinary Yuan Monarchs. The Qin family was originally the Imperial Guards of the Great Qing Dynasty and was loyal to the Imperial family. After Yong Shou died, the sacred dragon bangle was split into two. Half of it was given to the old patriarch of the Qin family for safekeeping, while the other half was given to the descendants of Crown Prince Yong Shou. Qin Yin said with clenched fists. It felt good to have family by his side. He was no longer lonely and powerless, but he was just saying it. In fact, if he was not at the end of his rope, he would not even want to disturb Qin Hao's life. Little brother Qin Yin, don't worry. My master alone is enough. As long as you give him enough time, exterminating the three great families is just a matter of minutes. Oh, that's right. This old pervert will also help you. The old demon said cordially. I wonder what this red thing is called. Suddenly, Qin Yun's gaze was attracted by the old demon. Oh, he's actually... Qin Hao did not allow the old demon to speak and promptly interrupted. He said that the old demon was a Paragon-level expert who unfortunately died a few months ago. He was the one who saved the old demon's soul. Qin Hao did not dare to reveal the old demon's true identity. His ancestor, the collapse of the great Qing Empire, the chaos in the wasteland, the destruction of the Qin family, all of these were linked to the old demon. That old bastard had been a scourge for 1,000 years for his own selfish reasons. If Qin Yin knew that the old demon had killed Yong Shou and created a group of blood descendants to fight the Qin family, he would definitely kill the old demon on the spot. So, it's a Paragon-level expert. How unfortunate. Speaking of which, a Paragon-level expert like you is really pitiful. Little brother, how? You have to quickly find a body for this senior. Qin Yun sighed with a face full of emotions. Once a Yuan cultivator reached the Paragon level, their soul would be extremely powerful. Even if their physical body was destroyed, their soul would not dissipate for a short period of time. But similarly, under the laws of heaven and earth, it would not last long. Not to mention a Paragon-level expert. Even an Emperor-level soul would not last half a year. If Qin Yun wanted the old demon to live, he would have to possess someone else's body and reincarnate in someone else's body. Yes, Qin Hao nodded in response. He had long wanted to find a body for the old demon. However, the old demon's level was too high and ordinary people would not be interested in him. So far, he had only taken a fancy to Qin Hao. In the end, he had been devoured instead. There's no time to lose. Let's hurry to the blood abyss. With this senior's help, we can more or less share some of the pressure. Qin Yin said very seriously. Although the patriarchs and grand elders of the three great families were not in the abandoned city, the other experts of the three great families were not people Qin Hao and Qin Yun could resist. Once Qin Yin activated the blood soul array, the phenomenon would definitely alarm the people of Solitary State, Huangpu State, and Shimen State. At that time, there would be an overwhelming number of martial artists. Just thinking about it made one's scalp tingle. The sky would probably be filled with sage-level and king-level martial artists. A mouthful of saliva from each of them would be enough to consign Qin Hao and Qin Yun to eternal damnation. They had to race against time. There's no hurry. With your high-level king-level speed, you'll be able to reach the Broken Dragon Cliff in less than an hour. Now, we need to make some preparations. In addition, it's not just the two of us. Miss Aku will also bring helpers. Qin Hao smiled and told Qin Yun the time he had agreed with Aku. It was the day after tomorrow. Aku. Qin Yun's body trembled and his face twisted. Aku of the blood race? Do you know each other? Qin Hao asked. Judging from Qin Yun's reaction, he was probably quite familiar with Aku. That, we could be considered acquaintances. I once peeked at her bathing and even touched her. I hope she won't kill me when she comes. Qin Yun was very afraid of Aku. The Qin family had always been enemies with the blood race. Aku was a half-blood with half-human blood, so it was very difficult to distinguish between them. Before the Qin family was exterminated, Aku had tried to assassinate Qin Yan, just like how she tried to assassinate Dugaji. She also wanted to kill the young master of the Qin family. In the end, not only did she not succeed, she was also taken advantage of by Qin Yan. Therefore, the relationship between the two was a bit ambiguous. Don't worry about that. As long as you don't touch her again, she won't harm you. I guarantee that she won't do anything to you. Now it's time to do some work. Qin Hao heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he looked at the corpse of the wild boar king with its inner core dug out. This pig was really a good pig that was rarely seen in 100 years. This time, he would have to trouble Brother Pig to sacrifice himself. Qin Hao planned to dissect the pig and take out a few bones. Since the opening of the Blood Soul Array would alert the experts of the three great families, Qin Hao could not let himself fall into a passive position and wait for death. He planned to assemble another array outside the Broken Dragon Cliff. Chapter 566. The Broken Dragon Cliff was hundreds of feet high. The cliffs on both sides were steep and steep, extending for more than 100,000 miles. Looking down from above, the Broken Dragon Cliff looked like a deep scar on the earth. On one side of the cliff, Qin Hao was busy running back and forth between several specific positions, busy setting up the Four Symbols Divine Beast Array. The Four Symbols Divine Beast Array used the Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, and Black Tortoise as the array foundation to protect the east, south, west, and north corners. When the array formation was activated, it would draw upon the power of the stars and firmly trap the people trapped in the array. The power of the stars would constantly bombard the array. Especially at night, the power of the stars would be even stronger. Of course, Qin Hao did not have the ability to invite the four great divine beasts to be the array foundation. In fact, the array formation had been passed down from ancient times. In the past, the seniors who had set up the array had only found some substitutes with the characteristics of the four great divine beasts to be the array foundation. For example, the Azure Dragon's array foundation could be the corpse of a large python. The White Tiger's array foundation could be used to kill a fierce tiger. The Vermilion Bird's array foundation could be used to kill a large bird. As for the Black Tortoise's rough skin and thick flesh, Qin Hao chose to use the corpse of the Wild Boar King to replace it. After the four corpses were buried, their hot blood was poured over them. Then, the array totems were gathered and the four positions were connected. The higher the level of the array foundation, the stronger the lethality of the array. Based on the level of the four mythic divine beasts that Qin Hao had killed, if a martial artist below the Monarch level stepped into the array, they would most likely not be able to return alive. If one wanted to break the array, even a low-level Yuan Monarch would have to pay a heavy price. After all, after the Four Symbols Divine Beast Array was activated, it would summon the phantom doppelgangers of the divine beasts. Even the phantom doppelgangers would have a certain amount of divine power. Little brother Hao is actually a Grandmaster Array Master with profound skills. What a talent! Looking at Qin Hao's busy figure, Qin Yan was full of praise. The reason he praised Qin Hao for his superb means was not only because he had never heard of the Four Symbols Divine Beast Array. Judging from Qin Hao's method of gathering the array at this time, it was extremely difficult. It was far beyond the attainments of ordinary array masters. If the level of spiritual power was not high enough, it would be impossible to gather it. Qin Yan guessed that Qin Hao's knowledge of array formations was at least at the 7th grade. However, the loss was still very serious. Moreover, Qin Yan still had to protect Qin Hao and fight against the experts of the three great families. Standing alone on the cliff, he was the first to bear the brunt of the sea of enemies. What kind of sacrifice was this? What kind of helplessness was this? However, in order to help Qin Hao awaken a high-quality essence soul, he did not hesitate to do so. Little brother Qin Yun, in this world, other than my little master, you are the second person I admire. At this moment, even the old demon, who had lived for 3,000 years and was heartless, was deeply moved by Qin Yun's righteousness. Don't dawdle, brother Hao, go down. In a short period of time, Qin Yun's face became extremely pale. His body trembled uncontrollably, and there were signs of dizziness in front of his eyes. He bit the tip of his tongue and used the pain to numb himself. Then, with a loud shout, he raised his palm and hit the sea of blood Lingji floating above his head. A stream of essence, fire, shot out from his left palm. The monstrous essence fire condensed by Yuan Wang quickly refined the blood Lingji above his head. Immediately, a stream of essence energy that carried spirit qi and blood qi poured into Qin Yun's head, nourishing his missing blood qi. And this newly replenished blood qi immediately flowed through Qin Hao's right palm into the blood soul great array at the bottom of the cliff. This kind of pain was not something that a human could imagine. I won't let you down, old demon. Let's go. It had been too long since Qin Hao felt such sincere brotherly love. Other than Guadi and Shui Han, Qin Yun once again let Qin Hao experience this kind of hot-blooded emotion. He leaped and flew down the cliff with the old demon. Qin Hao did not dare to look back at the pale Qin Yun. He was afraid that he would not be able to control his tears. Haha, in just 3 to 4 years, a lad from an insignificant branch was able to travel from the weak Jiang country to the glorious wasteland. This in itself is already a miracle. You didn't disappoint me. What surprised me even more is that you are also a 7th grade formation grandmaster. Brother Hao, you are worthy of my sacrifice. Compared to me, this useless young master of the Qin family, you are more outstanding. Looking at Qin Hao's back as he jumped down the cliff, tears fell from the corners of Qin Yun's eyes. He had witnessed the tragic deaths of too many of his clansmen. No matter the price, the blood feud must be avenged. He only hoped that Qin Hao could awaken his essence spirit faster. According to the speed of flying from the solitary state, Shimen state, and Huangpu state, it would take at most half an hour to 15 minutes for the experts of the 3 great families to arrive. If he could not retreat in time, it would be dangerous. But even if he risked his life, Qin Yun had to hold on until Qin Hao awakened his essence spirit. Because the 3 families' patriarchs and grand elders, as well as the other 2 elders, went to the northern border together. At this moment, Huangpu Huichun and the other 2 had the highest cultivation. They moved quickly, but at this moment, there was someone who moved even faster than them. That was the western outskirts of the wasteland, the blood abyss that was 3,000 miles away. The 3 families withdrew the troops guarding the Broken Dragon Cliff, but the troops guarding the blood abyss sealing array were not withdrawn. This group was the closest to the Broken Dragon Cliff. Almost without any orders, the 3 commanders of this group led their subordinates to the Broken Dragon Cliff at the same time. They only needed a few minutes to reach it. At the top of the Broken Dragon Cliff, a figure with a pale face and a weak appearance stood facing the wind. Feeling Qin Hao enter the blood abyss, Qin Yun immediately dispersed the blood power in his palm. His mission was complete. What kind of source spirit could be awakened next would depend on Qin Hao's luck. However, Qin Yun's mission was not over yet. He had to stop all the enemies who were rushing over and buy time for Qin Hao. Haha, will come. Tonight, I, Qin Yun, will kill to my heart's content. Mother, brother, sister, all of you watch from the sky. I will use the blood of the 3 families as a sacrifice. Ah! Qin Yun raised his head and roared. Buzz! The yuan qi that had dissipated from Qin Yun's body rose again. This time, it was even more intense than before. The yuan qi of an 8th level yuan monarch formed an aura that reached 100 meters above Qin Yun's head and shook the entire Broken Dragon Cliff. At the same time, a 2-meter-long halberd with dazzling light appeared in Qin Yun's hand out of thin air, emitting boundless cold light. It's you. Qin Yin, you didn't die. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The first batch of people to arrive were the troops of the three families guarding the blood abyss. There were not many people, only 100 of them. However, all of them were at least at the sage level. The weakest among them was at the 5th level of the mortal saint level. The strongest were the 3 captains, who were also the commanders of the troops. They were all at the 7th level of the heavenly saint level. Yes, I didn't die. However, the ones who will die next will be you. Qin Yin looked up with a pale face. There was no trace of anger on his face. Under the night sky, he looked even more terrifying, especially the look in his eyes, which made the 3 captains shudder. Run. We are no match for him. Qin Yin was extremely powerful. He had once killed 7 elders of the Dugu family by himself. One of the elders was the 3rd elder of the inner pavilion. The 3 captains immediately gave the order to retreat. Do you think you can escape? Qin Yin smiled as he stood motionless in his spot.